Chapter 463. Since Cat Eyes and Luo Nan were shoulder to shoulder, she slid down Luo Nan's chest the moment she curled up. Her bent elbow struck a vital spot. Luo Nan's instinctive reaction had yet to subside, but he only furrowed his brows at Cat Eyes' more stimulating actions. He pushed Cat Eyes away. "You can see a psychiatrist. Let's go together." Cat Eyes did not care what pose Luo Nan wanted to take. Her attitude was relaxed, as if she was joking with a close friend. However, the words that came out of her mouth were extremely strange. "Did you know? Most of the awakened ones who were still in puberty rarely suppressed themselves. Whether it was psychologically or physically, they had strong stimulations and needs. This was the norm. But now, the problem is, you can still make it physically, but psychologically, it's a little strange." She didn't give Luo Nan a chance to refute. Her eyeballs shifted to the other side and she pointed at Yuqin, for example. "You should know that, smart girl. All you need to do is crook your finger, and she absolutely wouldn't mind using this sort of method to mend the relationship. That's enough from you. Awakened ones aren't born stallions, okay?" Luo Nan's words were like this, but his eyes unconsciously shot a glance in Yuqin's direction. Right now, Yuqin's mind was clearly not on the song and dance. Though she was sitting upright and still, she would send a gaze over from time to time. She was paying attention to the atmosphere of interaction between Luo Nan and Cat Eyes. "Are you tempted yet?" Cat Eyes stared fixedly at Luo Nan. It seemed that she would not give up until she detected the beast gene on Luo Nan's body. "If I don't, then I'm a pervert." "Yeah, a different kind of pervert. He's becoming more and more like some people." Some people. Although the statistics aren't complete, based on the current information, a similar situation would fit perfectly with those so-called gods and children of God who became extraordinaries a long time ago. "Thank you for thinking highly of me." "Think highly of me." "As expected, you're the one who's feigning ignorance." Cat Eyes moved her face closer once more. Her voice became cold and hoarse. "I don't believe that you can't tell, boss. I'm afraid of you." This time Luo Nan didn't push her away. Instead, he turned his face to the side. The distance between the two was so close that they could hear each other's breaths. People would believe it if they said they were kissing from a different angle. On the other side, Yuqin's breathing unconsciously quickened. Unfortunately, whether it was Luo Nan or Cat Eyes, neither of them had any thoughts of romance at the moment. "Boss, you're too close." Cat Eyes' breath faintly carried the fresh fragrance of tea. However, the meaning behind her words was sluggish and oppressive. "Shouldn't a god like you maintain a distance from your believers?" Luo Nan sighed. "I'm not a god. But it's a trainee. Therefore, you have to constantly ponder, practice, and experiment in order to improve. During this period of time, your followers, unfortunately, such as myself, will undoubtedly become your experimental subjects." "You think too much." Luo Nan felt that Cat Eyes was suffering from paranoia. Right when he was about to have a serious conversation with her, he heard a bang. Bai Yu and Clara, who had switched places in front of him, collided into each other. Their heads bumped into each other, and the sound was painful. The two women hugged their heads and squatted down. Bai Yu was in so much pain that tears rolled down her face. If such a low-level mistake were to happen on stage tonight, the BHD group would probably be fighting for the headlines. However, Luo Nan and Cat Eyes' exchange postures in such a deranged manner was eye-piercing and heart-piercing. The fact that the BHD trio managed to hold on until now before making a mistake was because they were focused. Luo Nan pulled a taut face and turned his face away. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She just clapped her hands again. "Focus a bit. The AR effects on stage are even more chaotic. When the time comes, you won't even have the chance to hug your heads and cry." Continue. The three girls were still in a daze. They just instinctively swayed along with the music and sang along to the lyrics. 6 gazes revolved around Luo Nan and Cat Eyes most of the time. Cat Eyes was not demanding. She just said to Luo Nan, "You see, BHD is just an experimental subject." Their appearance originated from the inspiration of the person in charge that lasted no more than 10 seconds. With this as the skeleton, a team was built, and the three of them were found one after another. Right now, the experiment has just begun. The person in charge is already impatient to let them go on stage. Right now, their biggest problem is that they don't have enough people. For example, on tonight's stage, there will inevitably be a visual blank. Their singing skills are far from being able to support a stage of 1 million people. So, they can only use backup dancers or large amounts of AR images to fill in the blanks, creating a situation where the host is usurped. Failure is inevitable. Luo Nan raised an eyebrow. "You're a teacher. Is it really okay to curse your own students?" A wondrous smile formed on Cat Eyes' lips. This isn't the first time BHD has failed. Their debut song lacks any special characteristics. They haven't even made a splash. They've failed to make it onto the charts. They don't have any endorsements to this day. Mingtang culture's internal allocation of resources is also very stingy. In the next 1 or 2 years, the company will probably make adjustments to them in terms of positioning and personnel. They will try them one by one. But the patience of a businessman is always limited. They will either find the right path and become successful and famous, or their team will disintegrate and find their next home. Their path to stardom will be dim and even abandoned. Having said this, Cat Eyes turned her head to look at Luo Nan once more. "You can say that you have some friendship with them. If you want to send them some words of encouragement, what should you say?" "Work hard." TSK. What in the world are you trying to say? I'm sorry, but the word "work hard" doesn't play a decisive role in determining their future. The one who truly controls them is Mingtang Culture's artiste department. They are the person in charge who single-handedly forged them. The direction drawn by these people is the most crucial factor in the survival or destruction of the BHD group. "Boss, is this my future destiny?" Luo Nan wanted to refute her, but just as he opened his mouth, the words stuck in his throat. Right now he was looking straight into Cat Eyes' pupils. At the same time, he was grasping her life sketches and the structure of her body and soul. He gently plucked at the crisscrossing chains between them. In this state, even the slightest change in Cat Eyes could not escape his grasp. Could it still not be called fate? I've been flipping through nearly all the information related to the leaders of the order for some time now. The growth of nearly every god is established on a foundation that goes against human nature and the common sense of society. Your understanding of the world is on another level. Cat Eyes reached out her hand and gently touched Luo Nan's cheek. Her seemingly gentle movements were actually more like touching a cold, hard, and dignified statue of a god. There was observation, there was fear, there was inquiry, but there was no emotion factor between people. The will of a god is immeasurable. Destiny is the same. But I can tell you clearly, boss. I don't want to meaninglessly sacrifice myself for those inconceivable reasons. If I can't escape in the end, I'd rather die by the hands of a normal man. I understand the cause and effect clearly. Luo Nan frowned at first. Several seconds passed before he suddenly broke into laughter. Was this a prayer? No, this was clearly revenge. This was a declaration of war. Cat Eyes had avoided the pointless direct confrontation. Instead, she vowed to be a stumbling block on his path forward. She would do everything in her power to destroy his path to godhood. From the looks of it, her weapon was the so-called desire of human nature. Up to you. Luo Nan really wanted to emphasize once more that he never had any intentions of becoming a god. Cat Eye's confrontation was meaningless. But there was no meaning in saying these words too much. His mind spun, and his train of thought traced back to the source. He suddenly understood why Cat Eye suddenly felt fear in her heart. He flipped open his palm and gently clenched it twice. He spoke softly, "It's because of Manager Shaw, right? That person isn't a good person." Cat Eyes responded unhurriedly, "There is no right or wrong in front of a god. But there are also people who are close and distant, right? That fellow has ideas about BHD and even my sister. There's nothing wrong with me searching for information from his body. You're thinking too much. Anyway, doesn't your words prove that my research methods are very effective?" The smile on Cat Eye's face suddenly froze. Luo Nan laughed out loud and leaned his body back against the wall. He adjusted his posture slightly, making his sitting posture more comfortable. Then he closed his eyes. Even though Cat Eye's supple and fragrant body was leaning to the side, it did not affect him from entering a state of concentration once more. The living starry sky unfurled. Manager Shaw, lackeys 1, 2, 3, and 4 all made special marks. Luo Nan continued to ponder over the marvels within. He bluntly used Cat Eye's, a believer, as a reference. Time passed bit by bit, and Luo Nan really did abandon all the changes in the external world. It was only past noon when his biological clock, formed over the past few days, reminded him that he needed to do an afternoon class. Only then did he restrain his mind, adjust his breathing, and enter a meditative state. It was unknown when he had entered a state of sleep. But Luo Nan's subconscious was still operating, still observing the starry sky. Moreover, the research results of Manager Shaw and other ordinary people unconsciously entered his knowledge judgment system, constantly refining the relevant conditions. In his days, Luo Nan had a dream. It was like he was shaking a sieve, but it was also like he was operating a laboratory centrifuge. He slowly separated and filtered the millions and millions of stars of the living starry sky from various levels, forming a fuzzy hierarchical division. There were some gaps that did not belong to the scope of this research, but he could fill them in. There were still a few levels above ordinary people and below the awakened. Some had just begun cultivating, like Xie Junping. Some had already cultivated but had yet to awaken, like Worker Zhai. They could all be used as reference objects. Xie Junping was one of his believers. Worker Zhai had discussed the feeling of using the condensation ring to accelerate the awakening with Xie Junping many times during this time. The relevant information was ready-made. It was just that Luo Nan rarely considered using the hierarchical division method to carry out the division. Actually, the train of thought was ready-made. Wasn't the framework of the social format just like this? In the past, Luo Nan only looked above. He never looked below. Now, there were finally layers upon layers of stairs that slowly extended down from the suspended region. Oh, there was also the technique of distinguishing the root receptacle, root nature, and root trigger taught by Jim Master Show. It was extremely appropriate to use it here. Many subtle details could be seen. Gradually, the void was divided into layers, and the stars returned to their positions. Although the overall structure was still rough and chaotic, there was a vague distinction between the various stairs. After all, the differences between ordinary people, non-awakened ability users, and awakened were quite obvious. It was practically impossible for a situation of confusion to occur. Ha! Luo Nan's mind shook, and he instantly woke up from his half-asleep state. His eyes opened. Chapter 464. Their gazes met, and the other couldn't help but narrow his eyes. He shifted his upper body slightly and frowned. You have a fierce gaze. You must have gotten into a lot of fights in the dojo recently. Oh yeah. Luo Nan recognized his sister. He then looked at his wristband. It was already 1:45 a.m., very close to the appointed time for breakfast. Where's your manners? The distance between the two was too close. Luo Nan still dared to call her by her name. Moya reached out her hand to pinch his face out of habit. Though Luo Nan had lowered his head to look at the time, he nimbly tilted his head to avoid the attack. Then he relied purely on the strength of his waist and legs to stand up in this extremely narrow space, jumping out of Moya's torment domain. Moya's eyes lit up. You're like a living monkey. You've grown capable. I'm all right. Luo Nan curled his lips. If it weren't for the fact that he was far too familiar with the aura of his family and that Cat Eyes, Yuqin, and the others had stayed at a safe distance for a long time by his side, leading to his lack of vigilance, Moya wouldn't even have had the chance to get close to him. Also, thank you for your contact lenses. Luo Nan wasn't prepared to get entangled with Moya over the issue of sibling status. He looked around and saw that Hai Jing was here as well. He raised his hand in greeting and said casually, "Are you done with practice?" Hai Jing chuckled. "Which one are you talking about? Do you want to watch me sleep?" Ha! Luo Nan suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He turned his head and saw the BHD trio. Shui Yuan had her head buried in her clothes, Clara was admiring her nails, and Bai Yu was leaning against the enormous wall mirror. She stared blankly at the ceiling. It was unknown where her mind had wandered off to. Though the things they did were all different, there was one thing that was extremely synchronized: no one paid attention to Luo Nan. The atmosphere within the practice room was clearly low. Not good. He had offended someone. That's right. Not only was he flirting with the instructor in front of the gorgeous and dynamic song and dance, he could even openly sleep. What did he think of the three young and beautiful girls? Even if she doesn't hold a grudge, she still has to sort out her emotions, right? Luo Nan wanted to give a few words of explanation, but he discovered that he was simply unable to speak. He wanted to save the millions and millions of citizens of Xia City and prevent them from being harmed by the mutant virus. This was a great and honorable reason, but he needed people to believe it. There was no other way. Luo Nan could only choose the simplest and crudest method: I'm going out to make a call. Making a phone call was an excuse, but contacting Peony was a matter that could not be delayed. Luo Nan activated Ink's perspective as soon as he walked out the door. He determined Peony's position. The other side seemed to be the lobby of some high-class restaurant. Ink couldn't enter, so he could only see Peony's back through the street view glass. The latter was sitting peacefully on the sofa in the lobby waiting area. At this hour, was he taking a nap after the lunch? Luo Nan didn't think too much about it. He directly transmitted the information: suspected target discovered. Location outside Becky's coffee house on the west side of the plaza. Peony clearly leaned back and shot back with annoyance, "Mr. Partner, I'm on a date. I'm going to see my family, okay?" Aw. Forget it. Maybe this is God's will. Say it again, where is the target? Luo Nan saw that Peony didn't seem to be joking. He could not help but hesitate. Did I really disturb you? Then let's wait. Don't waste time. If you have something to say, say it. Peony took a deep breath, stood up, and looked around the hall. She seemed to still be reluctant to leave, but in the end, she still chose to walk out with large strides. Perhaps it's fine to follow Mr. Ink, right? An enormous crow flew across the plaza. It was quite eye-catching. Fortunately, Luo Nan's target was in the outer perimeter. There were many people in the plaza, and the environment was complex. For the first time, he explained a few characteristics of the target in advance. Female. Early 20s. She wears a brown long windbreaker. She should be a university student in the parade. There are quite a few people around her. She might be drinking right now. Her emotions are quite agitated. Peony walked forward as she listened. But her feet suddenly stopped in the end. She's in the 3rd stage of infection in the parade. That's a ticking time bomb, okay? I said it. It's just a suspected target. She shouldn't be in the 3rd stage. Not yet. It's not like she's a mutant. You're saying that she's in the 2nd stage. The suspicion in Peony's words could be clearly heard even from 2 kilometers away. I'm not sure, but it's really hard to classify this person. Luo Nan didn't explain further because he had been out on the phone for too long. Haijing opened the door and stuck his head out to remind him. You lock onto the target first. I have a bit of a situation over here. I'll contact you later. Okay. I'll contact you when I'm in place. Peony originally wanted to contact Trigate Security, but she put it aside for now. She prepared to observe and make a judgment. I hope it's not a momentary misconception. If there's no doubt about it, I support you in starting a new research topic. When that time comes, I can call you Professor Crow. Luo Nan responded in a bad mood, I'll take your auspicious words. He temporarily cut off the connection and returned to his room. Haijing laughed a bit apologetically. We're going out to eat. We're going to move now. On the other side, Moya had just ended her call. Her expression was gloomy. She looked like she had something on her mind. She recovered her usual carefree and confident attitude when she saw Luo Nan return. You're out of luck today. The beautiful woman I wanted to introduce to you isn't coming. Shuei has something to do as well. She won't be participating in this event. The number of beautiful women has decreased by 2/3. Luo Nan didn't pay much attention to the first half of Shuei's words, but he was a bit surprised that Shuei wouldn't be going. Shuei was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band. She was a band member whose popularity was second only to Moya. They were about to rehearse. Was she going to act alone? Haijing also laughed. I originally wanted to invite Teacher Cat Eyes and Miss Yuqin to come, but they need to accompany BHD to make some final adjustments. Luo Nan's eyebrows jumped. He turned to look at Cat Eyes. Cat Eyes acted as if nothing had happened. She sent him a smile. Her intentions were quite subtle. An afternoon nap is very important. You can also do yoga in the meantime. Yuqin also said that she would accompany a friend. She wouldn't be joining in the fun. As for the trio from BHD, they were excluded from the very beginning. After all, they were still half-grown children. Their stage experience was far inferior to that of Moya, who had been struggling in the underground circles for many years. That being said, Luo Nan discovered that he seemed to have overestimated the Mountain Creek Band a bit when they arrived at the restaurant and the banquet began. The banquet started at 2:00. The atmosphere was quite average. The participants were probably pondering about tonight's performance. They were a bit unsatisfied with the food. Mountain Creek was the lowest of the 5-member bands. The lead singer and rhythm guitarist, Moya, and the drummer, Shuei, didn't participate. These 2 beautiful women were the most popular. The other members were melodic guitarist, Wang Mo. He had taken over Moya's position after she switched to lead singer. He was a professional and skilled musician, but he was a bit reserved. The bass player, Huang Xiangdong, was normally as passionate as fire, but he was also a big alcoholic. The keyboard player, Ma Lu, was the oldest member of the band. He was in the band back when Haijing was the lead singer. He was a founding member of the band. It was reasonable to say that Ma Lu and Haijing were old acquaintances, but he simply didn't pay attention to them at the dining table. He just silently ate and drank by himself. His expression was indifferent. As for the others, Moya was a bit absent-minded. It was unknown what she was thinking. Wang Mo's fingers were subconsciously tapping on the table. It was as if he was memorizing the fingering technique. Huang Xiangdong didn't touch a drop of alcohol. He just ate and ate in silence. The atmosphere grew more and more abnormal. Luo Nan knew that this sort of atmosphere wasn't good, but he was powerless to do anything about it. Plus, he was busy with other matters. He needed to seize every minute and second to communicate with Peony. He left the table to take a call halfway through his meal. Peony narrated the results of her observations. It's suspected that the target's mood is unstable. He's overly sensitive to external stimuli. He has physiological photophobia. His breathing and heartbeat rates are around 12% higher than a normal person's. The difference is significant. These are all evidence that supports your point of view. In theory, we can believe that the mutant virus has brought about an initial transformation and adaptation process to the target. However, if you want to be serious, there are other explanations. In comparison, the reasoning of, it's better to kill the wrong person than to let the wrong person go, is more convincing. How about increasing the sample? Did you discover anything else? Is this a blessing or a curse? Luo Nan's initial ranking of the living starry sky had indeed filtered out more than one target. He leaned against the wall of the corridor and operated his wristband. He used the electronic map to mark the locations of 3 other suspected targets. There was also a moving target, but it was a bit far away. He gave up on it for now. I'll send the map to the cloud space. You can just download it. It doesn't matter if you share it with Trigate Security. Speaking of which, when will their operation team arrive? Let's not think about the operation team for now. With the traffic control in the city center, it would be considered efficient if they arrive within an hour. I just hope that their relationship with the security department is as good as they're bragging about. Wait a moment. I'll take a call. Peony spoke a few simple words after the call connected. She quickly hung up and reported to Luo Nan, this is good news. Sky Blue Security, where Long 7 is in charge of emergency support work in the municipal plaza area. He's currently bored to death, so he can help out. If there are special circumstances, he can also find people to support him. Sky Blue Security. It had been a long time since he had heard of this. Sky Blue Security was a specialized security company under Quantum Corporation. It was an important department that placed Deep Blue walkers. Over a month ago, this department's combat team had a serious conflict with Luo Nan and Rui Wen. Later on, they suffered from Jack's indiscriminate attacks, resulting in disastrous losses. Long 7, or Snake 7, was a member of this combat team. It must be admitted that Sky Blue Security had the strength. Their equipment was comparable to that of the military's elite troops, and their personnel were well trained. In a certain sense, they could be trusted as a support force. Yes, Luo Nan remembered that Yan Yongbo was once the person in charge of Sky Blue Security in Xia City. But then he was called back to Luo City for a debriefing. It was unclear who the person in charge was now. Luo Nan didn't care about Sky Blue, Earth Blue, or Quantum Atom. All he wanted was a cat that could catch mice. In any case, this wouldn't affect his pay at all. The only thing that would give him a headache was Trigate Security. Do as you see fit. Call me if there's any progress. Moya cast a glance at him as soon as Luo Nan returned to the room. She seemed to be very interested, girlfriend. Luo Nan was stunned for a moment, then he shook his head, no. Just an ordinary friend. Hai Jing laughed from the side, so it really is a girl. Moya raised her hand to look at her watch, a total of 7 minutes and 20 seconds. You didn't dare to hang up on Mother's reprimanding call. This kind of call length should have broken the record. Luo Nan grimaced in pain. Moya, that's enough. Could it be that the first thing you did after entering the pop music world was to become vulgar? Hai Jing continued to play the role of a supporting actor. Nanster is very popular with women right now. Not everyone can stay an entire morning in the BHD practice room. The two sang the same tune, not letting go of Luo Nan. Luo Nan was annoyed, but his heart stirred when he saw the relatively distant state of the others at the table. Chapter 465. If they really wanted to make a fuss about the atmosphere, Luo Nan would be in danger of being sacrificed for nothing. From the looks of things, the other three were not on the same page. Wang Yimou and Huang Xiangdong were preoccupied with their thoughts. They were not in the mood to play around. As for Ma Lu, who was engrossed in eating and drinking, the corner of his lips was about to overflow with ridicule. Luo Nan didn't even sit down. He spread his hands towards the adulterous couple in front of him and made a helpless and innocent expression. "Aren't your methods a bit too low?" Luo Nan didn't say it directly, but the meaning was clear. Moya acted as if nothing had happened, but Hai Jing was a bit thin-skinned. He coughed lightly and said, "Actually, with Nancy's current age, it really isn't a big deal for him to know a few female friends. Even Auntie Luo probably wouldn't mind. Yeah. At his age, a certain agent already has 3 fans. After this incident, Auntie Luo really wouldn't mind too much." Ma Lu suddenly spat out these words, instantly silencing the private dining room. The stimulating effect was 10 times stronger than Moya and Hai Jing's efforts. Even Wang Yimou and Huang Xiangdong, who had been drifting away emotionally, raised their eyebrows. In the circle, the 3 fans had a specific meaning. They included face powder, grass powder, and sucking powder. Face powder referred to plastic surgery. Grass powder referred to having a relationship with a fan. Sucking powder went without saying. This kind of situation was not uncommon in the underground circle. It was also the atmosphere of the circle that Luo Shuqing had always hated. It was not news for anyone to be involved in these 3 things in the underground circle. However, if Ma Lu's revelation was true, then Hai Jing, who had always presented himself as a decent person, had such rich experiences back in the day. This made Luo Nan a bit surprised. Then, was the relationship between Hai Jing and Moya unable to take a step further because of this past influence? Perhaps his family was also a hindrance. Of course, from his own standpoint, Luo Nan probably wouldn't have agreed if Hai Jing really had such a loose past. Back to reality, Ma Lu's shameless remarks were really too humiliating. The smile on Hai Jing's face was already stiff. Moya was expressionless. Wang Yimou and Huang Xiangdong looked left and right. In the end, they both lowered their heads, wanting to continue pretending not to hear. But was there any meaning in this sort of self-deception? Hai Jing did not say a word. He got up from his seat and pulled the door open to leave. A cool breeze blew in from outside, making the air in the room flow a little. "Uncle Ma, are you crazy?" In the band, Huang Xiangdong was the youngest and the most impatient. Seeing that his manager had run away in anger, he couldn't help but slam his hands on the table and hold his head in disbelief. "We'll be going on stage in 5 hours. What can't you say after that?" Ma Lu chuckled. "So, before going on stage, a certain manager is like the king of heaven, untouchable. I didn't provoke you. When he provoked me, you even used the corner of your shirt to blow your nose. This is *king personal grudge. Then how do you know that a certain agent signed us for the sake of fairness?" Huang Xiangdong's face turned red and he almost got up to smash the table. Wang Yimou, who was beside him, saw that the situation was not good and rushed forward to hug him. "Stop talking, stop talking." However, people were like this. The more they were pulled, the angrier they became. Huang Xiangdong struggled for a while, but to no avail. He turned on his berserk mode and pointed at Ma Lu's nose. "Are you *king saint?" You've been acting weird since the day you signed the contract. Didn't signing with a commercial company ruin your image? Uncle Ma, Master Ma, if you want to be the king of the industry, you should have said so earlier. If you have the guts, throw your pen away. If you have the guts, go solo. Bang! Moya slammed the table. It was rare for her to get angry like this. The room was silent for a moment, and then there was another bang. The half-closed door was pushed open, and the waiter pushed in a dining cart. It was filled with beer, and there were at least 10 of them. Wang Mo was dumbfounded. Who wants it? Did you send it to the wrong place? I want it. Hai Jing walked back with a cold face. The rehearsal starts at 4 in the afternoon. It'll be your turn at around 5 or 6. According to the schedule, you must go back before 3:30 to prepare. Before that, we can have a good discussion. He threw a small metal box on the table. Hangover medicine for cowards. Ma Lu sneered. Do you think you're acting in a movie? Hai Jing looked over with cold eyes. Red deer. You're red deer. Just look at who's talking about red deer. Back in the day, you know which bastard brought me a fan. Now, everyone knows who's feeling guilty and is worried about their reputation. What now? If you have the guts, say it, do it, but if you don't have the guts to admit it. Ma Lu jumped to his feet. He looked like he was going to fight. Hai Jing didn't even bat an eyelid. He just opened the bottle and smashed it on the table. I'll say it like this. Aside from Moya and Luo Nan, everyone else in this room is AF * king bastard. Some are arrogant, some are pretentious, some are unrestrained. He smashed a bottle of beer on the table every time he spoke. The foam wrapped around the alcohol spilled out. Surprisingly, no one in the room refuted him. Only Moya chuckled. She took the initiative to reach out her hand and ask Hai Jing for a bottle of beer. Let's play in a band together. I'm not a good person either. Hai Jing gave her a deep glance and really did hand over a bottle of beer. He completely ignored Luo Nan. It doesn't matter if you're a rotten bastard or a bad bastard. Just hate yourself before you hate others. If you forget this, then use alcohol to wash your intestines. If you can't do it, then what's the point of playing rock and roll? Luo Nan still hadn't figured out the grudges between them, but he knew that a single bout of drinking wouldn't resolve the knot in their hearts. Luckily, they were all adults. They knew what they had to do and what they should do. It was enough. The reality was that a group of people shouted and fought fiercely. Then 2 of them really did drink until the world spun around them. They were dead drunk. Huang Xiangdong and Ma Lu were dead drunk losers. They were forced to drink hangover medicine. Moya and the other 2 supported them as they moved forward step by step. The group of drunkards still had a performance at night. Even if they had a small reputation, they would become a laughing stock if they were caught by the media. For this reason, Luo Nan was the only one who hadn't touched alcohol after the banquet ended. He took on the task of scouting and guiding, leading the drunkards into a relatively secluded underground passageway. Luo Nan did this sort of task in a relaxed and happy manner. He had already planned out the optimal path to the Tonghui building within his sensing region. It was more powerful than any electronic map. So far, he still had the leisure to pay attention to the tracking of the mutant infection. Of course, he didn't forget about the distribution of the steps below the awakened. Peony communicated with him once more, explaining the current progress. There are 4 suspected targets. All of them are university students who came to participate in the demonstration. All of them are female. Their symptoms are all quite similar. There aren't any obvious differences. For the time being, we'll treat them as infected. From past data, this proves that the stage of infection they are in is subdivided. They are roughly in the same range. Then we can make another hypothesis. The time of infection and the source of infection they came into contact with should be similar. It sounds like there's some progress. There's no pattern to the distribution of their schools. They're from the eastern and western city districts. The same goes for their home addresses. 2 of them were born and raised in Xiao City. The other 2 came to study abroad. This doesn't match with the Xiqing district, the Riverwu district, and the Forest Wall district that we previously focused on investigating. We haven't discovered any reasonable clues in terms of geographical location, which is also the domain of our early focus of work. So it's like this. Luo Nan was a bit skeptical when he heard this news. Did he make a mistake in his judgment? After all, the step distribution was a topic he had just begun to research. It was normal for a few mistakes to occur. Peony had a very confident appearance at this time. The 4 targets are all under close surveillance. At the same time, we're already digging deep into their social relationships. Geographical factors are meaningless. Let's research social factors. From a sociological perspective, they are all women. They are of similar age. They are beautiful. This similarity is a clue in and of itself. Overall, we believe in your professional abilities, Mr. Partner. Thank you for your trust. Luo Nan laughed in response. He recalled something. Oh right. There's another suspect target aside from these 4 targets. She's been moving around the municipal plaza all this time. Since you have enough manpower now, you should monitor that person as well. The moving target never left Luo Nan's range of senses. Luo Nan observed her from a distance as he described her appearance. This is also a woman. She's around 16 or 17 years old. She shouldn't be a university student. She's been shopping with her friends. Oh, she's come out now. She's joined some sort of team. A parade. It's not a parade. I saw a support sign. It should be a fan of some celebrity. They know that there's a performance tonight and they came to the plaza to support them. These fans have always been super organized. Luo Nan had become more experienced in this aspect after spending an entire morning with the BHD group. Peony's focus was different from his. She's also a woman. How's her appearance? She's quite decent. Above average. TSK. You really are a stalker. Why are you so sensitive to women? Speaking of which, I'm also a beauty. Do you want to meet? I said it before. It's just that I have a lot of eyes. Okay. Whatever Mr. Partner says. I won't expose your nature as a shut-in. Hee hee. The 2 ended the call. Luo Nan shook his head. He had the feeling that Peony was using psychological profiling techniques on him. The more he interacted with her, the clearer his true image would become. With Peony's intelligence, could he really keep his identity a secret? Luo Nan didn't know why Her Majesty Empress Wu would make such an unnecessary move. This situation was quite embarrassing. Luo Nan let out a breath of turbid air and turned his attention back to the back. Mo Ye and her group were still staggering as they walked. At this speed, it would be up to the blessings of the heavens to be able to return to the Tonghui building by 3:30. Oh. Who's that? Luo Nan saw someone walk out from the underground passageway. The timing was perfect. The person just happened to be right in front of Mo Ye and her group. The person's gaze cut across the group of drunkards before finally stopping on Mo Ye's face. Though the person was blocking the path, it didn't look like he had any intentions of giving way. Instead, he took the initiative to speak. Mo Ye. This person should be familiar with Mo Ye and her group. Luo Nan could see that Mo Ye was startled for a moment before she happily responded. She didn't feel any sense of unfamiliarity. The middle-aged man's hair was sparse, but he looked very healthy. His body was lean and powerful, and there wasn't much fat on his face. When he smiled, his muscles pulled, forming long ravines. He wasn't ugly, but he had a grave and stern aura to him. Could he be a soldier? Luo Nan subconsciously used his mental senses to scan the middle-aged man's life sketch. Then he saw. Chapter 466. Yes, emptiness. Luo Nan's consciousness wandered within the living starry sky, sweeping across the densely packed stars. However, he was unable to find the structure of the middle-aged man's life sketch. Not even the shrouding nebula that powerful people were accustomed to could be found. Luo Nan was unable to see anything that he could use as a reference. However, the middle-aged man was just a few hundred meters away, chatting with Emoya, Hai Jin, and Wang Yimo. They talked about the performance in the evening and the style and characteristics of the Mountain Stream Band. From their words, it was clear that they were experienced fans of the music industry, or even industry insiders. That's right, I can use my mental senses to interfere with the material plane, and I can clearly sense his vital signs. His breathing, heartbeat, and body temperature were normal. The physical body can be seen, but the spirit is nothingness. Luo Nan felt his blood run cold for a time. Is this fellow a human or a ghost? This was the first time Luo Nan encountered such a situation ever since he constructed the living starry sky. Back when he was at Fudong Great Dao's Frost River reality, he sensed President Ouyang's logic world. He sensed the long-distance clash between Her Majesty Empress Wu and the upper echelons of the Order of Justice, causing the starry sky to sway and nearly collapse. That was a real feeling. It was absolutely not an emptiness that he could not touch now. Luo Nan was stupefied for a few seconds before he suddenly came to a realization. Such a strange character was standing together with his sister. It was hard to understand what he was thinking. Without another word, he turned around and ran. Halfway through, he suddenly realized something and used the Hexier to send a message to Chinikuin, who was not far away from him. Chinikuin transferred the image he saw to Chinikuin. Help me investigate this man. He's with my sister now. I'm on my way there. Also, I need help. Speaking to this point, Luo Nan recalled how Emoya had addressed the middle-aged man. He added, this person's name is Luo Yuan. It's probably this sound, things had happened in a rush. Luo Nan's explanation was like a clap of thunder on the flat ground. It startled Chinikuin so much that he was in a complete mess. The exclusive security personnel, who had been slowly tailing them in the car, had their pleasant afternoon time come to an end. People jumped out of their cars one after another and ran wildly in Luo Nan's direction. Chinikuin was the fastest to arrive. He blocked Luo Nan before he could turn into the underground passageway where Emoya and the others were. Mr. Luo, please let us handle this. Chinikuin didn't give Luo Nan the chance to refuse. He relied on his powerful arm strength to firmly control Luo Nan at the corner. At the same time, he ordered his underlings to split into two groups. One of the groups carried light weapons and quickly approached Emoya's position, locking onto the dangerous target. Everything had just been arranged when Luo Yuan suddenly smiled from Emoya's side. His gaze swept to the side to the rear. He was clearly pointing at the corner that was blocking Luo Nan and Chinikuin. Luo Nan used his mental senses to observe this detail. His heart skipped a beat, but he saw the middle-aged man bid farewell to Emoya. I still have things to do today, so I can't chat much. I'll be leaving first. I wish you all a successful performance. This person shook hands with Emoya and the others one by one. Even Ma Lu and Huang Xiangdong, who were drunk and muddle-headed, were not spared. Then, he passed by them and went straight down the underground tunnel. Luo Nan and Chinikuin both let out sighs of relief when they saw the situation. Chi Nikuin immediately gave a more dependable order: follow him evenly. Don't act rashly. A few seconds after the order was issued, Mr. Luo Yuan turned into aisle 4 not far away and disappeared from most people's sight. The security personnel in charge of tracking reported he went up the escalator and entered the municipal plaza area. It's estimated that he has left a safe distance. Should we continue tracking him? Chi Nikuin glanced at Luo Nan. Continue. Connect to the surrounding surveillance. We need to confirm the time period before and after. I'll contact the branch and do my best to figure out his social identity as soon as possible. The last sentence was directed at Luo Nan. Luo Nan nodded slightly and let out a secret breath of relief. Due to the privacy of the living starry sky, Luo Nan couldn't say clearly why he suspected this person. He was worried that he wouldn't be able to explain himself. But clearly, he was overthinking things. With his current status in the society and his famed mental senses, Chi Nikuin and the other security personnel, from top to bottom, didn't question him at all. They even used the high-grade resources of the branch without the slightest hesitation. Soon, Luo Yuan's movement trajectory appeared on the hexair. Actually, Luo Nan had locked onto him. Though the mental plane was empty and Luo Nan was unable to directly locate him, he could still indirectly monitor him through the surrounding personnel. Under everyone's gazes, Luo Yuan boarded a flying car that had been waiting for a long time outside the municipal square and slowly drove away. Luo Yuan didn't make any other contact during this time. And the latest surveillance results came out. This person had entered the municipal plaza area for around 20 minutes. He had been walking the entire time without stopping until he met Emoya and her party. It seemed that this person had come specifically to chat with Emoya and the others. He would leave after he finished chatting. Anyone could feel an extremely strong sense of purpose when they saw the movement trajectory organized by the security personnel. Luo Nan just felt a chill from the bottom of his heart. The actions of this Luo Yuan posed an immeasurable threat to him and even his family members. Luo Nan couldn't help but make a few deductions in his mind. The results made his scalp faintly swell. This sort of monster was empty on the mental plane. Most of Luo Nan's mental abilities became mere decorations. If they were to really fight, Luo Nan could count on very, very few methods. Chi Nikuin's expression was grave. I'll contact the military police outside and find a reason to interrogate them. Emoya and the others had already walked to the corner by now. They were a bit surprised to see Luo Nan and a stranger leaning against this place. Luo Nan suppressed the uneasiness in his heart and asked Emoya as if nothing had happened, I saw you talking to someone just now. Who's that? Oh, that. His name is Luo Yuan. We met at the Man Town Music Festival. He's an uncle with an awesome smoky voice. He's especially good at seducing people. Wang Yimo added, the expression of the wilderness minor tune is very strong. According to him, he can only get the taste out of searching for treasures and picking up girls in the wilderness all year round. The wilderness. Luo Nan and Chi Nikuin exchanged glances once more. This was even more troublesome. Were vagrants included? Chi Nikuin immediately gave an order to his subordinates. Search the vagrant database. Prioritize the area around Xia City. All information from the security personnel went through the psychic wave network. Outsiders wouldn't be able to find out. However, Chi Nikuin standing here was already very eye-catching. Emoya cast her gaze over. She was a bit puzzled. This is... Oh, Brother Qin is a friend I met at the Daguan. Luo Nan's brain suddenly jammed when he spoke to this point. He could only throw the blame away. Luckily, Chi Nikuin's skill at throwing the blame was quite high. He had a calm smile on his face as he took the initiative to introduce himself. I'm Chi Nikuin. I met Nanster during an exchange at the Daguan. I work for a security company. Our company is responsible for patrolling the area for the university students' demonstration today. Moya gave a simple introduction of the people here, and the two sides got to know each other. While they were introducing each other, the latest information regarding Luo Yuan came back. Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan didn't feel too good when they received the news. No one. How could there be no one? Yes. There were no traces of this person in the car. The driver is an employee of a regular car rental company. He doesn't know anything. He said that after the customer got off the car, he never came back. I feel like he's missing a piece of his memory. It's like he was swallowed by a ghost. The road that stopped Luo Yuan's flying car had already exceeded the range of Luo Nan's mental senses. Luo Nan was unable to directly sense the situation at the scene, but the information he received made his hair stand on end. Afterwards, Qin Yikuan requested his subordinates to investigate the surveillance, but there were no traces. That person really was like a spirit. He suddenly appeared and then disappeared. The situation was heading toward a serious trend. Luo Nan and Qin Yikuan exchanged opinions. On the plane of reality, Qin Yikuan was a complete opposite of his usual taciturn attitude. He faced Moya and the others with a warm smile. I heard from Nanster that you guys are signed artists and public figures. The flow of people in front is getting bigger and bigger. Soon a group of students will pass by. It's inconvenient to continue like this. How about this? I'll open up a reserved safe passage. Everyone can pass through here. It'll save us a lot of trouble. Moya and Hai Jing never thought that there would be such a good thing. They were a bit hesitant. Is that okay? No problem. It's our duty to avoid possible accidents. Qin Yikuan spoke a few words through his wristband in a dignified manner. Then he guided everyone into the closed and deactivated escalator. The deactivated escalator started operating once more as soon as they went up. Now Moya and the others had no more doubts about Qin Yikuan's status and authority. Plus, they were very interested in the mysterious and hot-blooded Daoist career. Soon, everyone started chatting enthusiastically. Little did they know that many people were holding their breaths in rapt attention in this temporarily open safe passage. Some were so nervous that their palms were sweating. Everyone couldn't relax for even a moment before the fellow who called himself Luo Yuan re-entered the surveillance field of view. Luo Nan and the others returned to the Tonghui building in a strange atmosphere. Qin Yikuan couldn't follow them back in here. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to explain his identity. But the society was truly resourceful. Luo Nan had just said goodbye to Qin Yikuan and entered the private elevator when someone who called himself the deputy head of the building's security followed them. He wore a well-ironed uniform, and his gaze crossed with Luo Nan's. This deputy head had just gone for a morning run with Luo Nan 2 days ago. He was an ability user retired from the military. His name was God, and he was the deputy head of Luo Nan's security team. He and Qin Yikuan took turns taking care of Luo Nan's daily security work. Today was supposed to be an off-duty day, but considering that the situation in the municipal square was different from home and school, he rushed over to strengthen the security force. He was a responsible uncle. Although Hai Jing was one of the people in charge of Mingtang culture here, it was impossible for him to control the security personnel of the entire office building. He didn't care when he saw that there were no problems with God's clothes and authority. As the elevator went up, he asked a few questions about the situation of the underground passageway that led directly to the backstage. God answered fluently and gave him the contact number of the person in charge. Hai Jing had already saved it, but he was still very grateful. Chapter 467. When the elevator reached the 56th floor, it was already 3:45 p.m. For Mountain Stream and all the artists from Mingtang culture, this was the real battle preparation stage. They didn't need to think about practicing anymore. All they needed to do was relax and adjust their state of mind. Hai Jing drinking with a group of people might seem out of line, but it was actually a prelude to relaxing. It was perfect for a grassroots band like Mountain Stream. It could be said that he had put in a lot of effort. However, it wasn't easy to get rid of the effects of drunkenness. As soon as they returned to the practice room, Hai Jing acted like a manager and ordered all the members of Mountain Stream to sleep, especially Huang Xiangdong and Ma Lu, who had drunk too much. Ma Lu's alcohol tolerance was fine. He just squatted on the floor and refused to get up. Huang Xiangdong, on the other hand, was extremely excited. He picked up his beloved bass and played an impromptu solo. It was rare that he was still in tune. In the deep sound, Hai Jing arranged methodically, the wake-up time is at 4:30 p.m. There are still 45 minutes left. You are all old drunkards and have taken drugs. There is enough time. I will arrange for the transportation of the instruments and send them directly backstage. For now, don't think about anything else. Have a good sleep. Wang Mo raised his hand, but Brother Jing, we are still missing one person. Hai Jing was stunned. Alcohol still had an effect on him. He didn't realize that the drummer, Shu Yi, had not returned yet. He reacted quickly, don't worry about it. I will contact her. He said it lightly, but after 2 rounds of calls, Shu Yi did not pick up. No one could stay calm now. Without one person, how could they perform at night? Huang Xiangdong, who was still drunk, roared, would have F***ed 2 months ago. Mo Ye kicked him against the wall. Huang Xiangdong and Shu Jing had been a couple for a period of time, but they had broken up. Although their band was small, there were many messy things going on inside. In the midst of the chaos, Shu Yi finally picked up the 3rd round of calls. She said that she had just returned and would be there soon. Not long after, the door to the practice room opened. Shu Yi walked in. Her long hair was wet, and she was panting. Her face was bright red. From the smell of her breath, it seemed that she had drunk too. Huang Xiangdong glared at Shu Yi. He wanted to say something to his ex-girlfriend, but he was also drunk, so he didn't have the qualification to say that. He could only vent his anger by pulling the strings. Bass's low voice swept through the training room again. However, the next moment, Hai Jing snatched it away. Sober up, take a bath, change your clothes, and sleep. This is your current task. There is no time to waste. Hurry up. Shu Yi snorted and went to the lounge. He staggered a little. Moya asked her, are you okay? There are sobering pills here. Okay. Shu Yi flipped her hair and couldn't help laughing. When she reached out to take it, she didn't even manage to catch it. Luo Nan frowned from behind the door. Poor sense of distance. Chaotic emotions. Signs of stimulating activity in many areas of the brain. Did this sis take drugs? Taking drugs to get high before a performance was a bad habit of many bands in the industry, and many people had been ruined by it. Shu Yi's method, in the long run, was really not wise. In any case, the matter was resolved perfectly for now. Luo Nan didn't need to stay in the Mountain Stream Band's room any longer. He called out to them and left, saying that he was going to rest for a bit. Outside the door, God stood in the hallway, waiting. Cat Eyes was next to him. Cat Eyes had already received some news. She chuckled, what's wrong? Did you cause trouble again? Luo Nan was too lazy to answer. He asked God, is there any news about that Luo Yuan? God shook his head, not yet. Why did he suddenly disappear? Luo Nan felt a bit of a headache. However, the 3 of them were not company personnel standing in the hallway. They were quite eye-catching, so Luo Nan made the decision to choose a place to discuss matters. It was room 5627. He had the authority and password, and there was no one there. The automatic cleaning system of Tonghui building was trustworthy. Luo Nan didn't discover any traces of the indescribable path after entering the room. The air was still quite clear. He sighed and stretched. He warmed up his muscles and bones, pondering what to do next. God spoke up at this time. There's the latest information regarding that Luo Yuan. Have you found him? Where is he? No. We haven't found any traces of the target, but we have some clues regarding his identity. The society had never stopped collecting and organizing information ever since Luo Nan's warning. Fortunately, this Luo Yuan didn't seem to be a particularly low-key person. The three of them could access the psychic wave network, and the relevant information could be easily shared. God gave a further explanation: Luo Yuan, a vagrant of the wilderness. He's a relatively famous gene dealer. A nicer way to describe a so-called gene dealer was a gene merchant. This occupation used various methods to collect valuable genetic samples and provide services to various laboratories that did related topics. Their targets included relatively rare animals and plants, as well as various successful people in society, and even mutants and ability users. Cat Eyes sneered, "Dragons give birth to dragons, phoenixes give birth to phoenixes, and the son of a mouse can dig holes." This kind of thinking is quite popular right now. Many laboratories want to make some achievements on this path. It's a sunrise industry. Luo Nan was a bit puzzled. Since he's a gene dealer, he must be interested in some special genes. Who's his target? Cat Eyes and God cast their gazes over as soon as Luo Nan finished speaking. Me? Are you happy? If you're short on money in the future, you can make some money by selling genes. Luo Nan didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What's wrong with that? If he's really interested in my genes, can't I just pluck out a strand of my hair and give it to him? Or should I just spit on him? Also, he can go to the hospital. In today's society, genetic sampling was a physical examination program that existed from a young age. Every few years, the Public Welfare Department would go to schools and families to collect genetic samples to screen for various fatal diseases. There was also a common saying that the government did this in order to perfect the human gene pool and strengthen their ability to control society. In any case, the genetic information of a citizen was absolutely no secret to those who had the ability. There was no need to go against the Xiao City branch. Cat Eyes clicked her tongue twice and shook her head. "Boss, you may be young, but don't treat ignorance as happiness, okay? Have you ever heard of the limit gene? Is that a word you coined? I don't help the society take the blame. This concept is quite popular in the inner world. It involves the problem of the source of an ability user's power. There are quite a few people who believe that the source of an ability user's power lies in the strengthening and modification of the human body's original genes by their extraordinary abilities. The genes of the same person before and after their ability awakens will be different. Similarly, the genetic structure of the peak limit state will be different from the normal state. Although this theory doesn't have solid data to support it, many people believe in it. Therefore, many gene dealers are all perverts. Luo Nan felt a bit dizzy. Where's the logic in your words? God explained in a deep voice from the side, a first-rate gene dealer is also a first-rate torturer. They use all sorts of methods to make their targets experience multiple states and stages. Finally, they are forced to the point of no return in order to obtain the most complete genetic sample. They can do this to mutants, and they can also do this to humans. Therefore, being targeted by a gene dealer is absolutely not an easy thing to do. Luo Nan raised his eyebrows, but he didn't say anything. God reminded him a step further. Plus, from the current information, the so-called gene dealer is likely just a layer of cover. After all, his transaction records are far too few. Perhaps there are deeper secrets that haven't been exposed. The society is still continuing to investigate, but some information requires the use of headquarters authority. Right now, they are still communicating. The latter half of God's words were suddenly cut off. Before this, Luo Nan and Cat Eyes had already sensed that someone was coming into the room. The outer door trembled several seconds later. Before the person entered the room, a voice was already transmitted in, "Don't worry about the rehearsal. We still have a long period of time. Young Master can't you just wait a bit?" Ah! The female artist laughed as she rushed in, still pouting coquettishly without end. She didn't pay attention to the environment in the room at all. But the three enormous figures in the empty room could be seen with a single glance. It was hard not to see them even if they didn't want to. The female artist was stupefied in place a second later. However, Donglu, who was behind her, clearly didn't wake up in time. He saw her body stop, so he wrapped an arm around her waist from behind. He moved up and down ceaselessly. Oh my! I've always admired the body management of the artists under Mingtang culture. Ha! Donglu finally discovered the situation in the room. He had been stupefied for a record-breaking 5 seconds. Then he laughed mischievously. "So you guys are already here. I know. First come, first served. You guys take your time to play. You all understand that your tastes are quite heavy." In the end, even he himself didn't know what to say. He pulled the female artist away in a sorry state. Luo Nan stared at them the entire time. Even though the door was closed, his mental senses were still locked onto them. Cat Eyes cast a sidelong glance at him. "Hey, you're interested in that woman too. But her body management is really quite good. She practices at my place all year round. She can rank in the top 5. Luo Nan ignored the nonsense inside and asked, "Didn't you notice? That person seems to be..." "Oh, you're talking about Lon Lin." "Yeah. She and Lon Lin were here this morning." "That's right." Cat Eyes wasn't interested in discussing this topic. She interrupted Luo Nan's words. "First-rate body management doesn't mean that desire management is equally outstanding. Plus, standards aren't the same in this circle. Speaking of which, your standards are quite conservative. You and Captain Gao should be on the same page on this point." Gauda didn't react at all. It was as if he hadn't heard anything. Luo Nan's lips curled. His mental senses continued to linger on the female artist's body. The scene just now gave him a vague reminder. It made him think of a few things, but he was unable to grasp them for the time being. Chapter 468. Simply waiting was boring. But if there were clear things to do during this time, the flow of time would be astonishingly fast. Soon it was already 4:30 in the afternoon. Hai Jing, who had gone through the wake-up call, contacted Luo Nan and asked him if he wanted to follow the Mountain Creek Band and the BHD Band to the backstage waiting room. Luo Nan responded smoothly, "Okay, I'll go right now." But God and Cat Eyes cast their gazes over the moment the words left his mouth. They didn't seem to agree with him. Luo Nan hung up the call. He felt a bit guilty, but he still asked, "What's wrong?" Cat Eyes chuckled, "If the gene dealer's target is you, aren't you afraid that the several 100,000 people in the municipal plaza will be buried along with you, given your ability to stir up trouble? I'm indebted to you for thinking so highly of me." No. I think you're being too conservative." Using some extremely vulgar words to describe a certain person, he was simply born for the grand occasion. Frost River Reality and Ocean Sky Cloud City were things that everyone knew about. Back at Aurora Cloud City, he had only watched from the sidelines. He had not even taken part in the battle. This was also the effect of an earthquake. Famous experts like An Wang, Snake Tongue, and Mo Luan had fallen one after the other. Why did the Xia City branch arrange a security team like they were serving a lord? They were on guard the entire time. Even so, Aurora Cloud City nearly failed to turn over. Right now, Cat Eyes had the attitude of facing the Demon King of Calamity in conversation. Of course Luo Nan was aware of this. He could not help but glare fiercely at her. But he could not deny that this was indeed a problem. It was not that Luo Nan did not consider it. But if he were to intervene from another angle, the problem would still be serious. What if the drug dealer's target is Moya? After all, he has been in contact with Moya and the others ever since the Man City Music Festival. And from the trajectory of his actions, he has an extremely strong goal. Cat Eyes curled her lips. If his target is your sister, do you think that you two siblings will be able to reunite in Xia City? Luo Nan rolled his eyes and did not reply. See, I told you so. Boss, if, and I'm saying if, an assassin targeting you uses your family as bait to lure you into making a stupid decision, then his workload should be reduced by a lot. Right when Luo Nan was choking, God took the initiative to speak. If Mr. Luo is worried, then a relatively moderate countermeasure is this: Mr. Luo and Miss Moya will be separated. Our security forces can be appropriately divided. Chi Nikuen will be responsible for Miss Moya, and I will be responsible for Mr. Luo. Add Cat Eyes and the people transferred over from the society. Diversion. Cat Eyes widened her eyes. Captain Gao, what kind of T contingency plan is this? Do you think that the enemy someone provoked is the same terrorist you dealt with in the army? Cat Eye's evaluation was very sharp, but this did not mean that she cared about Luo Nan that much. She was just picking at him out of habit. God was not angry. He simply replied, the security team must respect Mr. Luo's wishes. This is the first time I've realized that security work can be so humane. That's because Mr. Luo isn't a wealthy businessman with a big belly. When Vice President he arranged the mission, he mentioned that Mr. Luo has the ability to break free from security forces. If he doesn't cooperate, security work is just empty talk. God spoke up to this point, but he still added, Mr. Luo has taken good care of us up until now. Cat Eyes giggled. In other words, you guys are just waiting for him to blow up, right? Continuing to speak would just be bickering. God rationally shut his mouth and said nothing. Luo Nan knew that God had suffered a calamity because of him. He simply ended the topic, I'll go meet up with Moya and the others first. Speaking of which, I'll just kidnap Moya and bring her home. Hee, pretend I didn't say anything. In any case, finding Luo Yuan is the safest method. He was just about to get up when Hai Jing called, Nanster, it's a bit messy upstairs right now. It's not easy to arrange people. Do me a favor and leave the elevator open. If the main elevator isn't enough, then the backup elevator is fine. Okay, got it, Brother Jing. Luo Nan responded as his mental senses directly covered the area. For the sake of secrecy, Mingtang culture had refused to use the public elevator when they reserved this floor. There was only one dedicated elevator and one backup elevator. There were at least 100 people on this floor, including artists, assistants, and staff. They were all gathered at this time, and they all had to rush backstage. Even though they had already considered the diversion, the elevator's usage rate was still extremely high. Luo Nan used his mental senses to scan the floor situation. He saw that there was a large piece of luggage being transferred in the direction of the main elevator. He simply gave up on using the elevator. His consciousness swam to the backup elevator. He saw that a group of people had just gone down, so he used his soul strength to interfere with the material plane and pressed the down button. Cat Eyes let out a long sigh, mental interference with reality. Just use it on the elevator. Don't you hear the 100,000 ability users crying? The straight line distance between room 5627 and the backup elevator was at least 50 to 60 meters. Cat Eyes was barely able to track it. It wasn't that Cat Eyes couldn't press the button through the air, but she couldn't reach Luo Nan's level of lifting something heavy as if it were light. In fact, the vast majority of psychic ability users needed their consciousness to soak in for a long period of time to achieve a certain degree of resonance and fusion. Only then could they exert force. Cat Eyes was already a 1 in 100 talent among psychic ability users for her ability to realize her awakening. But her heart hurt when she compared her own methods to Luo Nan's. "Thank you for the compliment." Luo Nan stood up and patted the dust off his butt. He spoke to Gouda. "Captain Gao, I'll have to trouble you." Gouda didn't say much. He just nodded. It was quite interesting to say that the security team by Luo Nan's side were all taciturn, regardless of whether they were in charge or deputy positions. Luo Nan and Chinikuin had been discussing fighting quite a bit these past few days, so they were more familiar with each other. And Gouda was like this. Luo Nan had to admit that this kind of bodyguard was quite worry-free. He Yuan must have spent quite a bit of thought when she chose the members of his security team. Gouda and Cat Eyes wanted to discuss matters to take note of in their future cooperation, so Luo Nan pushed open the door and left first. He had just rounded the corner when a voice came from behind. "Hey, who's that?" Luo Nan didn't need to turn his head to know who it was. He hesitated for a moment before turning around. Sure enough, he saw a slightly plump woman. This was Shi Wei's assistant. It was because of her that Luo Nan transformed into a delivery boy this morning, causing quite a bit of trouble. Assistant Mang. Luo Nan finally remembered that he still had the status of a temporary worker at Mingtang Culture. He immediately greeted her. "You've worked hard this morning." "Oh right, what's your name again?" "You just arrived at the company, right?" "I've never seen you before." Assistant Meng's appearance was ordinary, but her personality was quite good. She wasn't the one who had Luo Nan run errands this morning. It was mainly because of Boss Wu. Luo Nan said his own name. It was this small delay when the door to room 5621 opened on the other end of the long hallway. The BHD trio walked out with backpacks on their backs. The three saw Luo Nan and Assistant Mang on the other end of the long hallway. Bai Yu was the first to wave. It looked like the sun was shining brilliantly at first glance, but all of it shone on Luo Nan. Chapter 469. As they spoke, Yu Qin walked out of the room a bit late. She didn't forget to close the door. At this time, Bai Yu had already rushed out a few steps. She quickly passed through the long hallway and pounced forward. She hugged Assistant Mang and started rubbing her face. Even though Assistant Mang was sturdy, she still staggered from the long-legged chick Bai Yu. All she could do was push her down with a face full of disgust. "I've been certified as an agent. Be careful that I don't ask you guys to come over and drink with those high-ranking officials and rich businessmen. Yeah, I have to be a bit more handsome." Bai Yu giggled and didn't take it seriously at all. At this time, Shui Yuan and Clara came over to greet them. Though they weren't as exaggerated as Bai Yu, they were quite close to each other. It could be seen that this Assistant Mang had a good relationship with the BHD group. Only Yu Qin walked straight to Luo Nan's side and bowed slightly. "Mr. Luo." Luo Nan nodded in response, but he remembered something. "I've wasted quite a bit of your time today. I think I heard Bai Yu mention that you have an appointment tonight." "I'm just watching a show with a friend. I'll be there when the time comes." Yu Qin took a deep breath and her voice became a bit softer. "Mr. Luo, do you want to come along?" No thanks. I still have things to do. I'll probably leave in a bit." Luo Nan and Yu Qin chatted for a bit before he heard his name called. It started when Bai Yu asked Assistant Mang what she was going to do. Assistant Mang said that she was going to buy something for Shi Wei. Let Luo Nan run some errands. No need, no need. You guys are busy. Assistant Meng shook her head fiercely. She had a kind temperament. Without Chief Wu by her side, she certainly wouldn't order people around. If I don't do this, then why would I be an assistant? Bai Yu urged with all her might, don't be silly, sis. If there's a strong worker here, then use him. Don't be shy. Luo Nan stared at Bai Yu with wide eyes. Were little girls nowadays this vicious? Just because she fell asleep while you were dancing, you want to sell her? Assistant Meng was really silly. She didn't know where Bai Yu's enthusiasm came from. She could only shake her head and refuse. Seeing Assistant Meng insist, Bai Yu didn't push it. She chuckled and said, silly sis, you're magnanimous. But this way, I don't have the face to speak for him. Ha! Luo Nan and Assistant Meng didn't understand. Bai Yu stuck out her thumb and poked the back of her shoulder. This man can be considered a friend of mine. Apart from being lazy and sleeping a lot, there's nothing wrong with him. By the way, he wasn't late to deliver tea this morning, was he? No. The service is quite good. Yes, I can. That's good. You didn't embarrass me. As Bai Yu spoke, she suddenly swung at Luo Nan's chest. It looked intimate, but the strength behind her swing was truly fierce. If it weren't for the fact that Luo Nan had put in enough effort to temper his muscles and bones, he might have gotten a chest ache. However, Bai Yu acted as though nothing had happened. Her eyes curved into crescents as she smiled. In that case, Sister Meng, seeing that he is a competent lackey, can you satisfy his humble wish and give him an autographed photo of Sister Weiwei? Meng's assistant was stunned for a second before she finally understood Bai Yu's confusing thoughts. She immediately laughed. Aren't you tired of going around in circles? Bai Yu blinked her eyes and acted cute. I'm not tired, I'm not tired. How could I be tired of talking to Sister Meng? Oh right, the autographed photo needs to be a bit more conservative. He might become a pervert after being provoked. Luo Nan didn't react. He still hadn't figured it out. What the hell is an autographed photo? What does he want with that thing? Assistant Meng had already agreed with a smile. No problem, no problem. It's worth it just because of your saliva, baby. Sister Meng, you're awesome. Also, if there's a congratulatory message on it, don't write this guy's name. Just write. Bai Yu turned around and saw Luo Nan in a daze. She sent him another elbow. What's your cousin's name again? Oh, his name is Mo Peng. Luo Nan finally understood. He did say that he wanted to get Shi Wei's autographed photo for his cousin back in the practice room, but that was just a random excuse. He forgot about it in the blink of an eye. He never thought that Bai Yu would actually remember it. Assistant Meng laughed. Don't worry about the name. Luo Nan, you have my number. Send me a message later and I'll ask Sister Weiwei to sign it. Then I'll let you know. No matter what the nature of the matter was, Luo Nan needed to express his gratitude since Assistant Meng was willing to help him. He immediately bowed. Thank you, Assistant Meng. Don't leave anyone out. Bai Yu tugged at Luo Nan and raised an eyebrow. What do you think? I'm a good friend, right? You're a good friend. Luo Nan gave a thumbs up. Honestly speaking, he was a bit touched. Even though this little girl's gossipy nature was quite terrifying, her merits were quite clear. The door to room 5627 opened once more at this time. Cat Eyes and Gao De came out and the group met up in the corner. The BHD trio let out sighs of relief when they saw Cat Eyes. They were even pleasantly surprised. Bai Yu was the one with the fastest mouth. She immediately shouted, Teacher, where did you go just now? It's not like I can replace you guys on stage. Since my teaching mission is complete, I can go anywhere. Cat Eyes answered casually and introduced Gao De to them. You can call him Captain Gao. He's a professional security guard. If you guys are facing a calamity today, count on him for your survival. The BHD trio, Assistant Meng, and Yuqin were all stupefied. 2 seconds passed before Clara, who had top-notch communication skills, sighed. She stuck her fingers into her hairline and laughed bitterly. Teacher Cat Eyes, I beg of you. We have a performance tonight. Oh, I wish you guys a successful performance. I wish you all the best. Cat Eyes beamed as she wrapped her arms around Bai-Yu and Clara's shoulders and led them forward. The atmosphere was thrown into chaos by Cat Eyes' casual words. But Luo Nan knew that Cat Eyes was pressuring him, warning him not to go and cause trouble. Calamity. Should I clear my name or not? Luo Nan originally wanted to go to the Mountain Creek Band's room and meet Imoya face to face. But Imoya sent him a message a step earlier, saying that they had already left the room and that they could meet up at the elevator entrance. Okay, we'll head over first. Luo Nan responded. He didn't forget to remind Assistant Meng, let's go to the backup elevator together. The main elevator is currently transferring luggage. It won't be free for a while. Assistant Meng smiled and nodded. Before he could say anything, Bai-Yu turned around and shouted, Did you reserve the elevator? I did. Then why aren't you guarding the elevator doorman? What if someone else takes it? The last wave hasn't even reached the ground floor yet. As long as you don't talk nonsense, you'll definitely make it. Bai-Yu wasn't polite at all. She turned around and sent another hammer swing, but this time she missed. Playing around with a beautiful young lady felt pretty good, but Luo Nan was destined to not have much leisure time today. He had only walked a few steps when he received another message from Peony. Perhaps it was because Luo Nan had seen through Peony's drunkenness today, but this elite woman, who always had her own opinions, no longer needed to put on airs. She would look for Luo Nan to communicate with whenever she had something to do. This time, she simply came to complain. Tri-Gate security has been investigated. All monitoring work has been banned. Ha! The Xia City branch. You know about it, right? Oh, the Wilderness Explorer Society. You know about it. I'm talking about the Xia City branch. They've made a big scene. I don't know what's gotten into them, but they didn't hesitate to mobilize their military and political connections to take over all security work around the municipal plaza. They're sifting out sand right now. Really? Luo Nan subconsciously turned to look at God when he heard this. He inquired through the mission window of the psychic wave network and confirmed that it was indeed the society's handiwork. Why is it so big? It's an order from above. I don't know the specifics. The short conversation on the psychic wave network ended. It was hard for Luo Nan to not feel a bit guilty when facing Peony again. He grunted a few times in agreement, practicing all the tones and words he knew. In the end, he feigned concern. The search work has been stopped. Definitely. Communication will take some time. However, we're still investigating the social connections of the target. We've made some discoveries. I've already sent the real-time information to the cloud space. It will be continuously updated. You can look it up at any time. A call came in just as they were talking. Peony swept a glance and picked it up in the first instance. Through Ink's perspective, Luo Nan could see the lines between Peony's brows and eyes curl. Her originally free and easy charm instantly turned exquisite and gentle. How are you? Are you in a good state? Hey, is it appropriate to multitask? Luo Nan felt that he had fallen into an awkward state of being miserably ignored. He was just thinking about whether or not he should end the call. A group of people had arrived outside the spare elevator in the office building. On the other side of the corridor, Hai Jing and the Mountain Creek Band came over with bags of various sizes. The two sides just happened to bump into each other. On the other side, Imoya was also on the phone. She was probably talking to a friend. She was chatting enthusiastically with a radiant smile. The sister and brother just nodded their heads in greeting. Hai Jing took command in the first instance and rushed everyone to the elevator. The office building had limited resources. The spare elevator left for Mingtang culture was transferred from the property elevator. It was located in a small compartment next to the fire escape. The elevator was only 7 or 8 square meters in size. The two groups, plus Luo Nan and the others, already had 14 people. Their luggage was more or less stuffed to the brim. As a security personnel, God instinctively furrowed his brows when he saw so many people crowded together. The first thing Clara did after entering the elevator was to look at the number of people the elevator could carry. She let out a breath of relief when she saw that there were 16 people. Luckily, we didn't exceed the limit. What's there to be afraid of? In any case, it's not our turn to run up the stairs. Bai Yu spoke and her gaze hooked at Luo Nan. Her meaning was self-evident. She was used to messing around with Luo Nan, but she forgot that there were still a bunch of bastards who had slaughtered their way out of the underground circle. Especially since they were still drunk. The most lively of them all, Huang Xiangdong, whistled on the spot. Youngsters these days have a hierarchy. Their postures are worrisome at this critical moment. Moya, what are your thoughts as the older sister? Moya directly picked up the phone and just gave a middle finger. Though Bai Yu was unable to incite Moya, she was so embarrassed that she couldn't stand still. She shrunk behind Shui Yuan and Clara's shoulders. Luo Nan knew that he absolutely could not answer, or else there would be no end to it. He learned from Moya and rolled his eyes. He tapped his wristband, indicating that he had a call to answer. He squeezed out of the crowd and blocked the entrance to the elevator. He was rejoicing in his heart. Fortunately, Peony was communicating through a rubber band. He needed to transform on the mental plane. Otherwise, he would have leaked out everything with his troublesome method just now. Ma Lu laughed with a hoarse voice. You don't need to stand guard at the entrance. We're a bunch of people squeezed in here. It's hard to get a pin inserted. Whoever comes over will have to obediently line up. Come over and chat with Uncle Ma for a bit. I'll teach you a few moves. A certain person forcefully raised his seniority, immediately drawing a wave of hisses. But the heat in the elevator was really stirred up. Perhaps this was a good sign for tonight's performance. Luo Nan ignored this group of people. He leaned against the door frame and downloaded information from the cloud space. He felt a silhouette approach him as he was operating. The silhouette leaned against his side, but the silhouette had no intention of communicating. Luo Nan turned his head to look and greeted politely, Sister Shui. The person who came over was the drummer of the Mountain Creek Band, Shui. She liked to use the Tesla coil to enhance her visual effects during her performance. She had the title of Electro Girl in the underground circles. As for whether this was a compliment or a derogatory one, it was up to the individual to decide. Shui crossed her arms over her chest. Her eyelids drooped, and she looked a bit sleepy. She was incompatible with the impassioned mood in the elevator, and she ignored Luo Nan. Luo Nan didn't find this strange. People who took drugs couldn't be judged by common sense. As long as this person didn't delay tonight's performance, it wouldn't be a problem. He went straight to look at the downloaded information. There were a total of 5 people, including the new monitoring targets from before. They were all around 20 years old. Looking at their respective social relations records, they were quite normal. They were about the same age as their peers. If Luo Nan were to ponder over the densely packed network of relationships by himself, he would probably die from a headache. Fortunately, Peony had already organized the information beforehand. She marked out the most crucial information. They are all paid VIPs of the Sky Street community. And they are all very active in the private section, Xing Meng, which requires referrals. Sky Street. Where have I heard of this name before? Luo Nan recalled as he looked at the annotations. Peony's description was on it: Sky Street, East Asia's largest information distribution center for the entertainment circle. Oh, it's that. Luo Nan suddenly understood. Wasn't this the gossip community that Bai Yu had logged into when she searched for the latest news on Shiwei in the morning? But what was that Xing Meng section for? Professional questions needed to be consulted by professionals. And the person with the highest level of gossip was undoubtedly Bai Yu. Luo Nan turned around and waved at Bai Yu. However, he really looked down on the heckling ability of the other people present. Huang Xiangdong felt that he hadn't caused enough trouble earlier. He shouted loudly when he saw Luo Nan. Hold on, hold on. Nanster, who are you recruiting this time? It doesn't matter. Say it out loud. This place is chaotic. Manager Hai can't hear you clearly. Luo Nan couldn't say much under these circumstances. Bai Yu didn't dare to stick her head out. She was embarrassed to the extreme. All right. Everyone, calm down a bit. Hai Jing felt that if they continued to make a ruckus, something would happen. He forcefully interrupted them. He saw Luo Nan's helpless expression, so he asked casually, Nanster, is there something you need? Fine. Everyone present was a professional anyway. He just asked directly. A friend asked me to ask what the main purpose of the Sky Street Community's Xing Meng section is. Can someone with the authority to say it? The elevator went strangely silent for a moment when these words were spoken. Chapter 470. Luo Nan knew that he must have said something wrong, but he didn't know where it was wrong. As he looked around, all he could see were the rock and roll fans whistling and laughing. Bai Yu, Shui Yuan and Clara were all avoiding his sight. Moya also stopped the communication, a helpless expression on her face. Oh, there was also Cat Eyes. She had a typical mocking expression on her face. It seemed that she also knew about the inner workings of the game. If he had known earlier, he would have asked her. Luo Nan wasn't an idiot. He knew from looking at the situation that the Xing Meng edition was most likely the route of the noble circles are truly chaotic. Forget it, pretend I didn't ask. Ma Lu laughed when he heard Luo Nan's words. He didn't continue to tangle with Luo Nan. Instead, he pointed at Moya. Say, do you think your brother is pretending to be pure? Or really pure? Moya would not answer such a retarded question. Okay. Who wants to dispel Luo Nan's doubts? Let's chat in private. Don't turn a deaf ear to my words. Hurry up and check your bags. If anyone dares to say that they're short weight, I'll make sure he or she works for the company for free for the next 2 years. Hai Jing finally brought out the cold-blooded style of a manager and forcefully controlled the situation. The two teams responded in a scattered manner. Luo Nan immediately sent a private message to Cat Eyes. Send me the relevant information. Don't worry, wait a few more minutes. Maybe some girl will edit it for you in private. Cut the crap. Alright, you are the boss. Actually, I don't know much about it. I only heard that the Star Dream version is actually the one-night stand version. The ones who are active in it are mostly flesh and blood. Occasionally, there will be some naive ones. Of course, the main selling point was the male and female celebrities. They solve their physiological needs, while the other side enjoys the halo of fame. Some professionals even earn some extra money. That's about it. This should be considered semi-public, right? That's what I want. Alright. The general situation was pretty much the same as what Luo Nan had imagined. He didn't waste any more time, immediately contacting Peony and summarizing this matter. He also delivered his analysis. The 5 surveillance targets are all ordinary families. They should be fanatical fans or prey. If there really was an intersection on this page, then the intersection point should be a certain celebrity. This circle shouldn't be too big, so it shouldn't be a problem to find the source of the infection. Hey, are you listening? Luo Nan gazed at Peony through Ink's perspective. At this time, that person was sitting quietly in a high-altitude restaurant, overlooking the entire municipal square from the window. But Luo Nan didn't know why, but he felt that her eyes weren't quite focused. You were just flirting with your lover a moment ago, and now you want to break up. Just as Luo Nan was about to call out again, Peony raised her hand and lightly brushed away the messy hair on her forehead. Her long and slender fingers just happened to block Ink's line of sight, making it hard for Luo Nan to see clearly. After a brief second, Peony responded, "No need to repeat yourself a second time. What you're saying is that someone with stage 2 or 3 infections is spreading the mutated virus through sex in a small circle." The straightforward and accurate description made Luo Nan a bit uncomfortable. But this little stimulation seemed to have stirred up a certain part of his brain, giving him some subtle and unclear feelings. Did I miss out on some information? Hey! Are you listening? Peony flipped her hand and flicked her sword back. Her words were exactly the same as what Luo Nan had said before. Yes, I understand. Alright, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So that's it. Also, what's up? Peony cast her gaze outside the window. Her gaze just happened to meet Ink, who was hooked onto the windowsill. It was unknown when her eyes, which had been overflowing with light, had condensed once more. They were bright and clear. I wish you good luck, Mr. Partner. Thank you. Luo Nan's mind was filled with bewilderment. Fortunately, he had a clear direction of investigation no matter what. Even if part of the problem was solved, he still let out a breath of relief. The backup elevator had already hit the bottom and bounced back. The group of people were about to head backstage. But Luo Nan's mind was still undecided. He needed to ponder over how to deal with the gene dealer's challenge. Perhaps listening to the opinions of professionals and maintaining a distance from Moya would be a decent plan. Luo Nan noticed 2 rather unexpected characters walking over to the backup elevator just as he was thinking. Around 10 seconds passed before the wooden door to the fire escape opened. 2 people walked in one after the other. People subconsciously looked over at the elevator, and many people's nerves instantly tensed up. Director Wu. The person who came over was the highest leader of Mingtang culture here, Director Wu Qingze of the Artists Department. Behind him was the second-in-command here, Haijing's immediate superior, Director Shaw. Wu Qingze was also an acquaintance. Most people never expected that the big boss of the company would suddenly arrive. This was a true big boss, the kind that concerned everyone's jobs. Hello, Director Wu. Hello, Director Shaw. Everyone saluted one after another. Even the normally arrogant and unruly members of the Mountain Creek Band had to put on a superficial act. Luo Nan didn't care. He just followed the crowd and lowered his head. But Director Shaw, who had just passed by him, instinctively returned the salute when he saw Luo Nan like this. He nearly bent his back. Luckily, not many people noticed. Director Wu noticed that the composition of the people here was quite complicated, but their attitudes were quite amiable. He immediately found Cat Eyes. He nodded with a smile. Teacher Cat Eyes has come personally. Thank you very much. Of course, he didn't overlook the uniformed god. When he found out that it was the building's management, he greeted Assistant Meng rather politely. In the end, he greeted Assistant Meng out of respect for Shi Wei. As for Yu Qin, she was quite close with the BHD group. She was also young, so Director Wu ignored her. No matter what kind of attitude he had, the entire elevator room underwent a transformation with him standing there. The originally chaotic concept of hierarchy suddenly became clear. Under this subtle force, the person with the highest status undoubtedly enjoyed the position closest to the elevator door. Director Wu was unobstructed all the way to the very front. Directors Xia and Hai Jing stood to his left and right, talking about the progress of their work and so on. As for the others, they mostly used eye contact in place of verbal communication. They would only raise their hands to cover their mouths and whisper to each other intermittently. No matter what, they were unable to return to the atmosphere from earlier. Luo Nan used his all-encompassing mental senses to take in everyone's expressions. He found the subtle psychological changes quite interesting. But soon, he felt the gazes of others observing him. Luo Nan raised his head and discovered that God was looking at him with a subtle expression. Cat Eyes was even whispering to him. "Look. It's quite abnormal, right? What are you chattering about behind my back? We're talking about how we can serve you, boss. Speaking of which, on one side you're the boss, enjoying star service. On the other side you're the little brother, bowing and scraping to others. How do you switch between these two modes at will? Are you schizophrenic? Or are you role-playing? Aren't you having fun?" Luo Nan was speechless. The two circles were different. One was another. This was very normal. How was he schizophrenic? Sure enough, most patients are unconscious. What do you think, God? God didn't want to get involved in this matter, but he hesitated for a moment due to professional considerations. He still communicated through the psychic wave network. "Mr. Luo, it's best if we completely control the situation. Don't let any unexpected situations occur." Before he could finish speaking, a new situation really did occur. "Oh my, there are a lot of people here. Luckily, there are even more beauties. There was only one person on this floor who could be so pompous and frivolous." 2 seconds later, He Donglu entered the elevator with a swagger. Old C followed beside him. This young master, who the vast majority of people were unfamiliar with, entered. Admittedly, he was quite eye-catching, but the vast majority of people were peeking at the number of people the elevator was carrying. It looked like this wave really couldn't go down. Bai Yu and Clara were quite alarmed. Could they really be jinxed? In front of the elevator, Director Wu's face sank for a moment. Clearly, his impression of He Donglu was limited. Depending on one's position, one's standpoint would also be different. From the perspective of Director Xia, being able to use the company's resources to exchange for personal benefits was already the most ideal situation. But from Director Wu's perspective, the entire artiste department was his private plot. He absolutely didn't want a bird to steal food from it. It was just that this bird was an eagle and had a powerful background. He absolutely couldn't afford to offend him, so he could only pretend not to see him. Everyone would be quite embarrassed when encountering this sort of chance encounter situation. Director Wu adjusted his mentality a bit, and a smile reappeared on his face. He turned around and took the initiative to greet He Donglu. "Young Master He, it's been a while." He Donglu walked straight to the elevator door with Old C clearing the way. He responded with a chuckle, "Everyone's busy. Director Wu, you're constantly pushing out good works. As for me, I'm a loyal customer. We still have a tacit understanding." As he spoke, he turned around and swept his gaze over the faces of the few beauties present. He even winked. Most people would treat this micro-expression as a playboy's casual flirtation, but Luo Nan noticed who he was winking at. Shu Yi. Shu Yi leaned in the corner with her arms crossed. Her expression was cold, but her slightly accelerated heartbeat and breathing proved that her mood was far from as tranquil as it appeared on the outside. Could it be that she had been flirted with? Director Wu glanced at the crowd and slightly furrowed his brows. Suddenly, he said to Hai Jing, "How about this? Little Hai, bring someone with you to check every room on this floor. See if you left anything behind, especially personal items and sensitive items. Let's not give the property management any trouble, and let's not give the paparazzi a chance to make a fuss. Hai Jing was a bit startled, but he quickly complied. Most people understood clearly in their hearts that Director Wu's move was a model example of using a fuss to make a fuss. In the end, this was just as signing the authority to get on the elevator. As for who Hai Jing would take away, one didn't need to use their knees to think to know. Luo Nan immediately suffered over a dozen gazes sweeping over him. Hai Jing's gaze fell on Luo Nan's face, giving him a slight hint. God and Cat Eyes both frowned. This was an unexpected situation. He Donglu had finally discovered Luo Nan. Or it could be said that he had found an opportunity to discover Luo Nan. He laughed more and more happily. Director Wu's thoughts are thorough. Oh right, you over there. Go to Shi Wei's room and get me 2 pieces of that unfinished snack. Hurry up. I'll be on the car in a bit. If you really can't do it, I'll run down the stairs. Luo Nan was truly speechless. Surnamed He, you're crazy. Director Wu felt He Donglu's targeting. He was stunned for a moment when Director Shaw jumped out from the side. He displayed outstanding initiative. I'll go with Hai Jing. It'll be a bit more convenient this way. Oh. Surnamed Shaw was already kneeling behind He Donglu's back. He Donglu raised his eyebrows, but he didn't lose the opportunity to ridicule Luo Nan that easily. Okay. Then little brother, just make a trip for me. Run a bit faster. Maybe you can make it to the elevator. Before he could finish speaking, the jumping numbers on the panel of the elevator fixed. After a long back and forth, the elevator finally got into position and an electronic sound rang out. Director Wu, who was in front of the door, didn't think too much after receiving this prompt. In any case, the youngster He Donglu had his eyes on probably wouldn't have a good time. He wasn't willing to get involved, so he waved his hand at Director Shaw. Hurry up and do it. He locked gazes with He Donglu as he finished speaking. They revealed smiles at the same time, switching to the social script. He Donglu seized the initiative. Director Wu, please. Young Master He, please. Director Wu, you're the host. You. Or is it Young Master He? Young Master He. The metal door closed to the side. It was like a flipped script that stretched the camera, causing the scene of the elevator room and the elevator car to blend together. Chapter 471. The reason why the person in the elevator car was said to be a professional woman was because of the strong impression her clothing gave. She wore a light gray slim-fit short suit and straight pants of the same color. She wore a slightly conservative black high heel. Every detail indicated her identity. The only thing that stood out was probably the silver-gray metal case she carried in her right hand. However, compared to her clothing, that extremely sculpted face was perhaps the best match. The calmer she was, the more a chill naturally seeped through. It made people feel that she should have an extremely serious personality. It was precisely this first impression, perhaps in addition to her tall and slender figure, that effectively strengthened her aura. Furthermore, there was a dense mass of people outside the elevator. She was alone, yet she didn't make any unnecessary subconscious movements. She stood steadily in the car and didn't even have the intention of walking out. She only used her bright and sharp eyes to sweep across everyone's faces. Wow, a hardcore. As an assault bassist, Huang Xiangdong immediately felt that this was a rarely seen and challenging type. He subconsciously sighed. However, as soon as he spoke, he discovered that his voice was unusually loud. In fact, the ambient noise had suddenly been lowered, vividly setting off his idiotic moment. Huang Xiangdong hurriedly shut his mouth. As his voice faded away and lacked a follow-up, some kind of silent power surged out like a formless dark cloud, instantly covering the entire elevator. In that instant, the whispers that even Director Wu couldn't avoid after coming over were completely erased. Director Wu, who was standing at the very front, was a little stupefied. Silence made people even more sensitive. In this strange silence, he suddenly discovered that there was a problem with his own reaction. He didn't know when, but he had turned his face to avoid the professional woman's gaze. Also, his body had moved to the side. He was an executive of Mingtang culture. The 56th floor was his company's exclusive floor. He was undoubtedly the head of this place. But what he felt right now was like 2 years ago, when he had welcomed Madame Halder from the Castle Financial Group. That cold capital tycoon, facing a group of overly enthusiastic and noisy company executives, had used only his eyes to shut everyone up. What the hell am I thinking? Director Wu suddenly snapped out of his daze. He felt that his current reaction was mysteriously awkward. Actually, I'm abiding by the rules of ladies first and first down, first up, right? Right? He subconsciously shot a glance at He Donglu. This young man was still blocking the entrance of the elevator. He looked even calmer. But what was with the abrupt interruption just now and the shrinking of his shoulders and chest now? Inside the elevator, the professional woman's gaze also fell on He Donglu's body, but also somewhat deviated. Before he could figure out where the focal point was, he heard an electronic beep. It was the beep of a different elevator, followed by a bang. Old C, who had been silently standing at He Donglu's side, first lowered his head to look at his wristband. Immediately after, his figure reflexively straightened. He forcefully pressed his legs together, and his heels touched. Reserve Lieutenant C. Guoxing of the 7th Coastal Special Warfare Brigade. The short and forceful sound of the army broke through the pressure of silence, yet it also completely changed the nature of this place. However, the people involved felt that it was only natural. 2nd Air Space Special Warfare Brigade Reserve Officer He Yueyin. As a professional woman, He Yueyin, she didn't need to change her posture. Her posture was the most standard. She looked at C. Guoxing and replied simply, "Please return to the team." Old C shouted, "Yes," and immediately raised his hand in salute. Soon after, he walked into the elevator with large strides. He arrived at the elevator control panel in front of He Yueyin and stood still. He crossed his legs and rested for a moment, like a door god. Only now did he slightly nod towards He Donglu. Then, he completely restored his cold and hard military demeanor. His own bodyguard had been pulled away with a beep. Did he think this was a swipe of a card? He Donglu had roamed the world of hedonists for 20 years, yet he had never seen or even thought of such a situation. He stood there in a daze. He didn't respond to Old C's signal. However, he didn't remain in a daze for long. The continuous changes finally broke the nearly frozen atmosphere in the surroundings. A slight commotion began outside the elevator. Since up until now, it didn't have much to do with them, the surrounding people couldn't help but paint all sorts of colors in their eyes. They used different angles to observe or exchange their own thoughts with their companions. Whispers rang out again. He Donglu stood at the very front, his back facing everything. He truly experienced what it meant to feel like there was a blade on one's back. If today's matter were to spread out, He Donglu would achieve the achievement of being a 10,000-year laughingstock in social circles in minutes. Really Motherf asterisk cur. Motherf asterisk cur. Awkward and absurd emotions finally took form and rapidly gushed out. He faced one of the most fearful gazes in his life and roared involuntarily, "Sis, what are you doing?" He Yueyin didn't pay any attention to him. Her gaze shifted once more, piercing into the crowd outside. With He Donglu, the sacrificial victim, in front of her, no one dared to look her in the eye. Most people even learned from Director Wu, moving sideways one after another to avoid the frontal assault. They unconsciously opened up a passageway leading outside. The problem was that Yuan didn't seem to have any intention of coming out. She just stared at the fixed target behind the crowd until their gazes met. Donglu felt like he was about to explode. What was hateful was that even so, he was like a marionette. He involuntarily followed Yuan's gaze and looked behind her. Then he saw a young, wooden face. F***ck. Frankly speaking, Luo Nan was a bit stupefied when he saw Yuan appear in the elevator. But then the other side directly recruited Old C. Outsiders were muddle-headed, but he, Cat Eyes, and Gouda, who were directly involved, had clear minds. The situation had escalated, and it was extremely serious. Otherwise, with the resources of the society, how could they possibly find external help at the last minute? So when Yuan cast her gaze over, Luo Nan instantly understood her intentions. It was time to get down to business. Luo Nan should have responded, but the moment the situation came to a head, he felt the blood squeezed out of his heart. It was as if it carried an electric current, so much so that his body was paralyzed. Correspondingly, countless electrical signals and chemical signals were transmitted and changed within the neural network. When these complex and subtle stimuli were integrated, they formed a relatively clear emotional color. Among them, the majority were actually restlessness and resistance. So Luo Nan didn't achieve an instant reaction like Old C. Instead, he maintained his silence. Cat Eyes and Gouda seemed to be a bit surprised by this. They both turned their gazes over. Luo Nan's facial expression didn't show, but the more gazes focused on him, the more intense the agitation in his heart became. This is embarrassing. What are you afraid of? Is there something here that you're afraid of? Actually, there wasn't. If there was something, it wouldn't be any substance. It would be some sort of metaphysical thing. Luo Nan's attention shifted slightly to where Moya was. Even without using his eyes to observe, he knew that his older sister was observing Yuan. She was quite interested, following Yuan's line of sight in search of the next explosive target. She treated herself as a spectator, but she didn't know that there was a close relationship between the newcomer and her cousin. Originally, the two circles didn't intersect. Or it could be said that Luo Nan had always been careful to maintain the distance between the two circles. But at this moment, because of this sudden incident, the inner world and the original social circle came into direct contact, silently intersecting. Only then did Luo Nan suddenly discover that there clearly existed some sort of irreconcilable conflict between the two. This conflict was precisely the source of Luo Nan's fear. There should be a deeper meaning to this, but Luo Nan was unable to make sense of it in a short amount of time. He only knew that he had to make a choice. It wasn't up to his heart. He had to consider many, many things. Since this was the case, the answer was actually placed right before his eyes. Perhaps the moment Yuan opened her mouth was the beginning of the collapse of the rhythm of life that he worked so hard to maintain. Luo Nan couldn't refuse, but he also wasn't willing to take the initiative to break it. He could only listen to the arrangements of fate. Outside the elevator door, Donglu had enough of this treatment of being completely ignored. He turned his face to face Yuan. He was so angry that his hands were already trembling a bit. You really think of yourself as a secretary? I'm your little brother, excuse me. Ha! Yuan's eyelids were slightly drooping in the elevator car. She temporarily cut off the gaze that had a clear direction. When she opened her eyes again, she walked straight outside, pushing aside a close blood relative who was blocking her way. Old C followed in silence. Donglu staggered outside, and the people behind him split open like waves, causing the already faintly forming passageway to become even wider. As for the end of the passageway, it was still a bit blocked. Luo Nan was right there. Yuan walked past Director Wu's position in 2 steps. Her feet didn't stop as she quickly gave instructions. The security bureau is working. Send 2 people from your company to follow. If there's anything you need, please cooperate. Damn. I finally understand what's going on. Director Wu still had a bit of doubt in his heart, but young master, he had called her sister twice. Even if he had doubts, he had to suppress them. He faced He Yuan's back and said, okay. Then he was a bit hesitant. Who should I leave? Director Shaw had a flash of inspiration at this time. He volunteered once more. Director, I'll bring someone with me. That's fine. Talk less and do more. Keep in touch at all times. Director Wu's head was swollen from the series of matters. He also knew that this matter was related to the Security Bureau and that it was best not to blindly meddle with it. He was disinclined to think too much, so he agreed to Director Shaw's suggestion. Then, little Luo, follow me. Director Shaw's gaze drifted over to Luo Nan as he spoke. He saw that Luo Nan's reaction was calm, and he knew that he had gambled correctly. He clenched his fist in secret. He Yuan just happened to brush past Luo Nan at this time. Gao De reacted quickly. I'm the building's property manager, follow me. He Yuan nodded imperceptibly as she spoke. In fact, she was pointing at Luo Nan. Luo Nan let out a sigh of relief. He even had the time to give Mo Ya a reassuring gesture before turning around to follow. Right after he turned around, his face inexplicably heated up. He Yuan led the group of people through the safety passageway very quickly, disappearing from everyone else's line of sight. Most of the people in the elevator were still in a daze. Cat Eyes leaned against the door frame and scratched her chin. Hey. The reasons are so abundant. What should I do? Chapter 472. Thank you, Sister Yuan. Luo Nan expressed his thanks to He Yuan in the first instance after entering the long corridor. He was clear in his heart that He Yuan's original plan was certainly not like this. Following the rhythm from the beginning, directly bringing him into the elevator was the most reasonable judgment. As for why it became like this, the reason, He Yuan, you're asking for it. He Donglu, who was already rambling incoherently, caught up from behind. He roared loudly from far away. This complete loss of composure attracted the attention of a few rooms on the floor. The artists and staff who had yet to leave stuck their heads out to take a look. But very quickly, they met Manager Shaw's fierce gaze, and they immediately stopped and closed the door to protect themselves. However, He Donglu's brain had already been fried by the flames of anger. He chased after He Yuan, wanting to pull He Yuan's arm and demand an explanation. Old C had no choice but to hug him when he saw that he was so irritable, but he didn't know how to stop him. Luo Nan was a bit embarrassed when he saw this situation, but he heard He Yuan say, "Don't get distracted. Let the security personnel handle these chores." Just as he finished speaking, God had already walked to He Donglu's side. He extended his hand and took out a small and exquisite spear-like object, aiming it at He Donglu's neck. F***ck, He Yuan, that's enough. Upon seeing this, He Donglu's eye sockets were about to split open. He struggled even more frantically. However, Old C didn't have the slightest intention of letting go. As God pulled the trigger, anesthetic drops were injected into the skin on the side of He Donglu's neck. In less than 2 seconds, the world became peaceful. He Yuan swept a glance. Settle them down. Old C pondered for a moment. Only Shi Wei's suite was considered convenient and easy to take care of. He excused himself to He Yuan and carried He Donglu inside. The others were still fine, but Supervisor Shaw was already dumbfounded. This officer He Yuan could really be said to be iron-faced. She didn't even care about her own brother's feelings and treated him like a passerby. Just as he was thinking about it, someone behind him suddenly laughed. The secretary really treats the boss to relieve his worries and doesn't avoid his in-laws. But aren't you spoiling him too much? Cat Eyes found a random reason to get away and followed after him with the sound of her high heels clicking. To her question, Hiyuan did not answer. Cat Eyes was unwilling to forgive him. Just now, we directly pulled him downstairs and met up with the security team. Everything would have been fine and dandy. In the end, things ended up like this. Don't you think it's funny when you put all your actions together? She directly pointed out the crux of the matter, causing the situation that had been eased with great difficulty to return to awkwardness. Well, the only one who felt awkward was Luo Nan. Luo Nan knew that Cat Eyes seemed to be targeting Hiyuan, but in reality, she was seizing the opportunity to take revenge. Every word and sentence was mocking him. Unfortunately, he was unable to retort, so he lowered his head in silence for a time. Focus. Only now did Hiyuan open her mouth. She gave the same advice as before, and then she turned to Cat Eyes. Since you are born human, your family and the impressions of your family are very important. For some people, they are more important than others. TSK, it sounds sweet. Hiyuan asked in a flat tone, if because of this kind of problem, it causes my mind to be distracted, my condition to be bad, and when I encounter trouble, what should I do? Since you're here, and the security team, in this environment, do you trust the security team more, or do you trust yourself more? Hey, Captain Gao is still here. Gao De's face was expressionless. In the face of true trouble, the security team is only there to share the pressure, to check for weaknesses and make up for loopholes. I know you guys have military backgrounds, so there's no need to show solidarity here, right? Cat Eyes rolled her eyes. And then? You guys are going to act according to his temperament. Hiyuan turned to look at Luo Nan. Harvest and effort are equal in principle. One more layer of change, one more job. This will consume even more mental strength. I believe that Mr. Luo has already made preparations. Luo Nan watched Hiyuan and Cat Eyes communicate, from the side. He already vaguely understood the reasoning within, but he was unwilling to speak at this time, so he remained silent. Hiyuan didn't mind. She turned to Manager Shaw and said, we need an empty room. Right now, most of the artists, assistants, and staff on this floor were heading backstage. Finding an empty room was the easiest. Even so, Manager Shaw was still very nervous. A thin layer of sweat appeared on his forehead. He used the authority control software to confirm repeatedly before finding the closest room. 5610, this room is a bit small, but it's always been unused. It's clean. Manager Shaw opened the door and invited the group inside. He wanted to follow along, but he was stopped by Gao De. Boss Luo. Manager Shaw instinctively wanted to know Luo Nan's attitude. Even though this young man seemed to be lectured to the point where he couldn't raise his head, wasn't this the same situation in the elevator in the morning? When all was said and done, the one who gave him the greatest mental shock was this seemingly obedient young man. Luo Nan felt Manager Shaw's fearful and expectant emotions, and he turned to give him a glance. There's nothing else for you to do. Go do what you need to do. Manager Shaw let out a long sigh of relief. He nodded and bowed as he withdrew. Si Guoxing had also settled He Donglu down at this time and hurried over. Gao De closed the door after waiting for the relevant personnel to enter the room, isolating the inside from the outside. This place instantly turned quiet. Ever since Cat Eyes was reduced to a believer, she became more and more casual when dealing with people and things. She didn't care about etiquette and the like. She had already found a chair to sit in, and she blurted out, "You're all professionals after all." Ha! She was suddenly startled. Her gaze streaked across Luo Nan's face before falling on Hiyuan. Hold on. Wouldn't a certain someone and his sister be separated like this? And he even ended up shedding tears of gratitude. So I'm the only one who's a vile character in vain. Luo Nan was stupefied in place for a moment. What she said seemed to be true. He Yuan didn't feel awkward because of Cat Eyes' words. She found an open area after entering the room. She crouched down and placed the silver gray suitcase on the ground. She entered the password, and everything proceeded in an orderly manner. Cat Eyes looked at Luo Nan. "Boss, what are your thoughts right now?" Luo Nan recovered from his sluggish state. He didn't know what to say at first, but his mind spun a few times. He unconsciously recalled the series of reactions he had in the elevator a few minutes ago. Soon, he grinned and laughed bitterly. "I'm thinking that if I were to be together with Moya and encounter an unexpected situation, I'm afraid I would really be done for if I were to be as conflicted as I was before. How would I have the free time to choose at that time?" Cat Eyes couldn't help clicking her tongue twice. "Your awareness has risen all of a sudden. Hey, Vice President He. I didn't know that you actually had the talent to be a teacher. Is the He family an instructor in the military?" He Yuan was silent for a moment. She waited for the silver gray suitcase to open to ring out. Only then did she speak softly. "With this awareness, Mr. Luo should be able to be more focused." This was the third time she had mentioned a similar request. Luo Nan took a deep breath and responded directly for the first time. "No problem." Chapter 473. The suitcase was filled with equipment specially arranged for Luo Nan. It was very simple. There was a flesh-colored protective suit, an electromagnetic handgun, matching parts, and a certain amount of ammunition. The protective suit was a tight-fitting standard, so Luo Nan needed to take off his outer and underwear before he could put it on. If this was before, Luo Nan would inevitably hesitate for a moment when faced with the gazes of several people in the room, especially those of the opposite sex. But right now, He Yuan's focused voice was still ringing in his ears. Mulling over these things would be a bit too petty. Luo Nan completely exhaled the breath he had just inhaled and exhaled. He directly unbuttoned his clothes, and his mind naturally attached to the equipment in the suitcase and He Yuan's introduction. He didn't care about anything else. The Hidden Snake Type 2 protective suit is mainly used for protection against stab and poison. It avoids being ambushed in a chaotic or vile environment. However, you still need to be careful of the head area when you aren't wearing a protective mask. Using this kind of protective suit required a certain level of skill. He Yuan stood up to help Luo Nan put it on as she explained. Due to their current special circumstances, it was hard to avoid physical contact. Some parts of the body were quite sensitive, and this was 10 times, 100 times more stimulating than the attention of the eyes. "Do you need help?" Cat Eyes' wicked interest was no longer satisfied by watching from the sidelines with a smile. She took the initiative to stand up and walk forward. She was clearly asking for Luo Nan's opinion, but she had already started. She slid down while sticking to his waist. To the side, He Yuan's brows furrowed slightly. Before she could speak, she heard Luo Nan say, "My calf is a bit loose." His tone was calm and natural. Cat Eyes was startled when she heard this. She raised her head to look at Luo Nan's expression. "Let's not talk about anything else." His eyes were half open and half sleepy. One side of his gaze was focused on the suitcase, looking at the accessories that he had yet to put on. The other side was probably his internal body, experiencing the minute sensations after putting on the protective suit. Aside from this, he had no other thoughts. Under the repeated stimulation, this youth, who had always been wavering between two life circles, finally made a decision. He swept away those meaningless and distracting thoughts, gathered his mind, and faced the present. It was fine for others, but Cat Eyes, who had long since become a member of Luo Nan's closed system, could clearly feel the power bursting forth from the core region. The majestic psychic pressure formed from this slowly covered every region of the system, regulating all sides and bestowing order. Cat Eyes was too close to him, to the extent that she didn't even have the time to digest it. Her heart felt stifled. In her daze, she came to a realization. Her boss's hesitant human heart gradually faded, and his ruthless mind stepped forward to weave a new set of order that was most beneficial to the current situation. Once this order was formed, any countercurrent that attempted to break through would need to have sufficient awareness. Cat Eyes hesitated for a moment. In the end, she bent her knees and half knelt. Her knees touched the floor lightly in order to maintain her balance. Her fingers were separated by a layer of protective clothing as she touched Luo Nan's calf muscles. Is it here? Luo Nan's voice grew quieter and quieter, above your heels. Here's a foot cover. Take off your socks and hook your feet. Cat Eyes did her best to reply with a calm tone, but in her heart she was thinking, I'll go crazy sooner or later. A dozen or so seconds later, Luo Nan slowly exercised his elbows, wrists, knees, and feet. He gradually adapted to the slightly tight state of the protective suit. His training during this period of time hadn't been in vain. The skin-colored skin-tight clothing, which could expose and magnify all the flaws of his body, actually allowed him to prop himself up. Aside from the fact that his body hadn't grown and he was a bit skinny, there wasn't anything else wrong with him. At this time, Yuan took out a set of small accessories with unknown uses from the case and fitted them onto Luo Nan. They included a narrow metal belt, a buckled leather armor that resembled an ancient breastplate, and a jeweled tail ring. There was a small interlude in the middle. Yuan noticed the black wristband on Luo Nan's left hand. Is this the flywheel arm? Oh, Brother Papercut gave it to me. Then wear the tail ring on your right hand to avoid conflict. You need to wear the equipment first, then put on your outer clothes. Make sure that all the equipment is directly attached to the protective suit. Right now, Luo Nan had even attached a layer of gloves to his hands. Though the gloves had the effect of simulating skin, the feeling was still quite strange. Cat Eyes didn't understand what was going on. She simply asked, "What's the use of this equipment?" Wait a moment. Yuan still didn't respond immediately. She continued to instruct Luo Nan, letting him adjust the hex ear to a certain special channel. Let's try it out. Do you sense a noise? There's a rhythm within the noise. You need to use your soul strength to adhere to it. Yes, just like that. Luo Nan's voice just fell when a buzzing sound rang out from his body. Yuan, Cat Eyes, and the suitcase on the ground were all pushed away by some invisible repulsive force. Fortunately, the body techniques of the two were extraordinary. They were able to maintain their balance, and Yuan still had the leisure to hold down the suitcase, preventing it from toppling over. Wow, a defensive force field. According to what President Ouyang said, this is the materialization of the power of the psychic wave network. Yuan looked at Luo Nan. Do you feel uncomfortable? Nope, I feel pretty good. Luo Nan responded with a single sentence. At the same time, he reached out to press his hand against his belt. He gently stroked it, as if he had understood something. Cat Eyes also walked back and reached out to touch the breastplate. Is this the president's new achievement? The psychic wave network directly interferes with reality. Yes. In theory, the power of the psychic wave network can be mobilized to interfere with the material plane through the relevant components. However, the current conversion consumption is a bit high. Less than 1 out of 100 is saved. Is President Ouyang prepared to personally escort a certain person? If there's a mortal threat, yes. Tisk tsk, this treatment. Cat Eyes was speechless at first, but she immediately shook her head. Then why do we need to beat around the bush? I feel that this toy is too flashy and impractical. It's too inefficient. If we really do encounter a powerful enemy, then as long as the psychic wave network is fine, we can just suppress them with a mental storm and sweep them away. Yuan did not speak. She just shared a video in the mission window. The video showed an interrogation room. Looking at the angle, it should have been taken from a surveillance camera. The camera was aimed at an unfamiliar face. This person sat in an interrogation chair with his hands fixed to the board. His head was lowered, and he didn't say a word. Who is this person? Cat Eyes was still the first to ask. The one who answered was God. This is the driver of the target, Luo Yuan's flying car. During the interrogation, he was unable to reveal Luo Yuan's whereabouts. He was brought back to the nearby police station. It's him. Luo Nan's attention was also drawn over. All he saw was that this person's face was ordinary. The corners of his eyes and eyebrows were drooping. He looked a bit gloomy. God added another sentence, the video is currently fast-forwarding. It was just as God said. The video was fast-forwarding at a high speed. The two police officers participating in the interrogation were rapidly switching their movements. Their voices turned into chattering noises. However, the driver was different. He maintained a fixed posture from beginning to end. He didn't say a word, and the corresponding scene didn't change at all. Yuan explained softly, he's been like this ever since he was brought back for investigation. Pay attention to the clock on the wall. The video returned to normal at a fast speed. The time on the wall clock was close to 5 p.m. Luo Nan lowered his head to check the time. It was 10 minutes ago. When the needle of the old-fashioned clock in the interrogation room crossed the top of the scale, the driver, who had been sitting in silence all this time, suddenly stretched his neck. His eyes were cast directly in the direction of the camera. His fixed gaze was as if he was looking at them through the lens of the camera. Luo Nan could see that the driver's face was constantly twitching from this moment on. His veins and muscles bulged from time to time, and the corners of his lips twisted under some sort of force. Words were spat out from the corners of his distorted mouth, all the inferior ones will be eliminated. The outstanding ones will be reordered. We have plenty of space, but we will absolutely not tolerate the entry of filth. These words were like the ravings of sleep and the words of madness. They were like a gust of sinister wind, rising from the bottom of everyone's hearts. The police officer in charge of the interrogation couldn't help but stand up. It seemed that he wanted to confirm whether or not the safety confinement facilities were complete. But right before his eyes, the twitching of the driver's face fiercely spread to the rest of his body. The extent of the twitching increased sharply, so much so that he completely lost his human form at some point. He was like a candle that had gone overboard, melting under everyone's gazes. Ah! The police officer in charge of the interrogation was nothing more than an ordinary person. He had never seen such a terrifying scene before. He retreated in a flurry amidst his screams, but he couldn't maintain his balance. He fell on his butt to the ground, bumping into the table behind him. The colleague next to him didn't perform any better than him. He flipped over his chair when he jumped up. The surveillance camera calmly recorded everything. The driver, who had melted into wax, remained in his chair. He spent roughly 30 seconds before his figure and appearance returned to normal. He maintained his posture of looking straight at the camera from beginning to end, but his face was completely different from half a minute ago. Everyone on this side saw the face clearly. Luo Yuan. Although Cat Eyes hadn't personally experienced the situation at the time, she had done her homework. She immediately hissed, "So he's the driver." The problem of Luo Yuan's disappearance under the watchful eyes of everyone at the time was most likely solved. She looked again at Luo Yuan sitting in the interrogation chair. This mysterious person originally possessed extraordinary male charisma, but after witnessing the melted wax remodeling process just now, no one dared to look straight at his face. At this time, the security personnel outside had already rushed in. There were also ability users from the society inside. Under such circumstances, Luo Yuan still faced the camera. He spoke in a manner that was neither hurried nor slow. No matter which one it is, I will find it. I will break the old and innovate with you. The video came to an abrupt end at this point, leaving behind only a calm expression that looked straight at the camera. Cat Eyes expressed that there were far too many lunatics in the world today. How is this Luo Yuan now? He Yuan still shook her head. If Luo Yuan really exists, then this person isn't. At least not in the complete sense. Cat Eyes was a bit confused. What do you mean? He Yuan didn't deliberately keep Cat Eyes in suspense. She directly answered Cat Eyes' doubts. According to a sample taken from the scene of the battle, there are some problems with the expression of this driver's genes. Although we still have to wait for the results of the test to come out, our initial conjecture is that this person may be a special life form that was rapidly produced through asexual reproduction. Moreover, he possesses extraordinary strength. Chapter 474. Cat Eye's confused state was delayed for a full 2 seconds. Only then was she able to force the corners of her lips to form a smile. Ability user clone body. Alright, a great discovery of creation. Her gaze turned to God and Siguishing. What do you two think? The other side was silent. Cat Eyes revealed an expression that said, "See, I knew it would be like this." She conversed with He Yuan once more. Vice President He, if my ability to understand is correct, you're saying that the person in the video is a clone, and an ability user at that? This is a preliminary judgment. So you're saying that this person is purely the result of human labor? He Yuan didn't directly answer this question. She just listed the data. There are currently at least 30 laboratories in the world that possess a complete technological system for asexual reproduction. Moreover, there are around 5 laboratories that possess a certain amount of technological reserves in the field of rapid growth. However, we have yet to receive any intelligence on anyone that dares to violate the relevant provisions of the Comprehensive Clones Prohibition Convention and push this forbidden technology into the application stage. And then, not a single one of these 30 laboratories is capable of attaching extraordinary power to a clone organism. After all, after decades of research, the current conclusion is that only extraordinary power can bestow extraordinary power. Then why did you say? But this judgment of this matter is based on reality. We can only start from the facts and make inferences according to current laws. This is a potential power that possesses a complete asexual reproduction technology and a complete set of extraordinary power. Using technology to create an entity and then bestowing it with extraordinary power. If that's the case, then it's not unreasonable. Cat Eyes rubbed her chin. Do you have a specific direction? Probably a little. In recent years, a batch of living material providers have appeared in the wilderness. Oh, I've heard of it. The gene exchange, right? It's a very famous black market. It's said that an enormous underground trading network has been formed. They specialize in providing genetic samples and living material for experiments to the major laboratories. Living material experiments. Luo Nan raised his eyebrows. He was a bit sensitive to this word. After all, his grandfather's crimes back in the day involved human experimentation. It was an important item that could not be avoided. It was also a charge that was very hard to wash off. So Luo Nan never dared to say that his grandfather was innocent. He could only pursue the academic achievements that his grandfather should have. At this time, Cat Eyes' imagination began to run wild. You're saying that this gene exchange provides various large laboratories with some sort of clone body. We have no evidence of such a transaction. I understand. the government, the military, and the funds of the major consortiums. Such high-level funding providers won't leave behind any obvious weaknesses. If they were to continue chatting like this, they would stray from the topic. He Yuan decisively changed the direction and revealed the intelligence and conclusion. At present, the understanding of the various parties regarding the gene exchange is very limited. However, there is a basic consensus. This force belongs to the wilderness, and among them, there is one or a few people who possess a type of supernatural power that can be used on a clone body, perhaps including the effect of rapid proliferation. Because of this ability, as long as there are qualified donor cells, it can quickly divide and multiply, forming a complete living body in a short period of time. It's like a bomb, but it's just like a bomb. Create a clone body and then completely vaporize it in a short period of time. Are they demons? To many laboratories, they might be more like gods. Cat Eye's ridicule hit the nail on the head. Luo Nan had a pensive look. If He Yuan's judgment was correct, then this could explain why he was unable to draw Luo Yuan's life sketch in his living starry sky back in the underground passageway. If the target itself was just a clone body that was rapidly proliferating and growing, then it simply wouldn't have the opportunity to form self-awareness. It was reasonable that no traces could be found on the mental plane. Cat Eyes and He Yuan continued to discuss related issues, but Luo Nan didn't participate. He wasn't like these two, who had an extensive and deep understanding of the inner world. Even though he had crammed a few courses, his understanding of the law that only supernatural power could bestow supernatural power was shallow. Therefore, it was useless for him to listen to such matters. Under such circumstances, the only thing he could consider was the superficial things. For example, how should he deal with this enemy that was hard to sense? One of Luo Nan's greatest reliance against enemies was his mental senses. This was especially true in the living starry sky. He could sense the enemy and even attack from a distance, seizing the initiative. This kind of observing and attacking mode was already a move and rhythm that he was used to. He felt that something was wrong if he couldn't use it. This was a problem that belonged to him. Of course, he could only solve it himself. Luo Nan's consciousness wandered the living starry sky. He had no train of thought for the time being, nor did he have a goal. He could only first sort out his own sealed system clearly, checking to see if there were any loopholes. Then he pushed forward layer by layer from the inside out. Of course, it was impossible for any loopholes to exist within his own sealed system. This was more like a ritual. It was also like the instincts of a fierce beast, patrolling its territory on a daily basis. Cat Eyes must have sensed the change and pressure within the system. Cat Eyes shot a glance at him, but Luo Nan ignored her. His mind had already spread out, covering a vast area with a radius of 20 kilometers. The situation at the municipal plaza left a deep impression on him, not to mention the surroundings. The stage for tonight's performance had already been set up in the center of the plaza. It was a standard four-sided stage, surrounded by a circle of temporary seats. The enormous stream of people was blocked outside. The surging heads were a dense black mass. It was just as Peony had judged. The number of people was already in the hundreds of thousands, or even millions. It was already extremely difficult to search for an unremarkable target within this boundless tide of people, let alone to find a few loopholes. Not only did he have to search the star atlas, he also had to take care of the millions of students and citizens on the material plane. He had to match them one by one. Not to mention the problem of the sharp reduction of the range of his senses when it came to the material plane. Even if he could take care of everything, he would have to face such a terrifying amount of data processing. Perhaps only by turning his brain into a supercomputer would he be able to find the corresponding point in the interweaving material and mental planes. Luo Nan was completely clueless for a time. He could only drive his mind and wander aimlessly. Just like that, he saw Peony once more. She was still in the high-altitude restaurant, sitting by the window, staring blankly. Ink was outside the window. It was extremely bored, combing its feathers. Oh right, there was still the matter of the mutant infection. It seemed that the threat was no less than that of the clones. Truly troubled times. Oh, it was already Lidong. Luo Nan subconsciously let out a sigh. It would be great if the number of people were a bit smaller. Then a new question extended from this thought. Luo Nan thought for a moment and opened his mouth to ask, why aren't we evacuating in the current situation? There's a dangerous character like Luo Yuan, and we can't figure out his goal for the time being. Isn't it safer to cancel the parade and concert? All the inferior ones will be eliminated, and the outstanding ones will be rearranged. Everyone said so. Our genius boss is certainly the most outstanding type. Don't you have any self-awareness? Cat Eyes widened her eyes, indicating to Luo Nan to understand. He Yueyin had specially brought equipment to his doorstep. She didn't hesitate to offend her younger brother in order to temporarily recruit a former military elite like Si Guoxing. This set of combined punches was not just for the sake of flattering him. Luo Nan blinked. Really? Boss, please strengthen your knowledge of society. Use your brain properly. Cat Eyes was in a bad mood because of Luo Nan's inexplicable inspection in the living starry sky. Now that she had found this opportunity with great difficulty, how could she let him go? No matter what the cause is, this is still a political parade in name. Most of the people gathered here right now are youths with excess energy. They stand amidst hundreds of thousands of companions. Under the control of group mentality, they are hot-blooded and fearless. They are worried about not having a place to vent. Tonight's performance is a channel for them to vent. Right now, you're telling them that the parade has been stopped and the performance has been cancelled due to an unwarranted danger. Do you believe me if I told you that you only need to leak a bit of information and you can cause a riot in minutes? Luo Nan went, oh. He ignored Cat Eye's crazy retort. He asked He Yueyin, has the clone body been sent to the laboratory? Where is it roughly right now? Cat Eyes was in a bad mood. Luo Nan's attitude caused the sharp thorns of her vicious energy to stab empty air. This was not all. The hidden and incorporeal sealed system gave her more and more pressure. Her experience grew worse and worse. It was as if she was situated in the middle of a large-scale production line that was operating at full capacity. All she could hear was the rumbling of machines. It would have been fine if she was an outsider visitor. But the key problem was that she was a member of this production line. Whether it was a worker, a machine, or a product, her position was determined by a certain person. Cat Eyes stared at Luo Nan. Her heart was restless. She really wanted to charge forward and bite this young man's throat. However, restlessness was restlessness. The thought only spun a few times in her mind before it was annihilated in a puff of smoke under the heavy pressure of the majestic system. She pursed her lips and watched Luo Nan carefully understand the relevant details of the clone body from He Yueyin. She was clear in her mind. This seemingly childish big boss, who was essentially emotionless, had already driven the resources of the system he controlled to touch upon a deep level that ordinary people could not even imagine. When the resources of this boss's system were driven by his excessive rational strength, Cat Eyes, as a member of the system, was able to feel the cold and penetrating clairvoyance. She was able to sense the terrifying mutation that had unknowingly seeped into her. Honestly, the childish little show was cuter. In other words, the clone body hasn't been shipped out of the plaza yet. Yes. Only a cell sample has been sent out. Oh. Oh. Chapter 475. Soon, Luo Nan found his target, the so-called clone body of an ability user. Of course, he was unable to directly observe it. He was able to lock onto it through the indirect projection of the other people present. Right now, the clone body was still in the form of Luo Yuan. His entire body was shackled from head to toe, and he seemed to have been injected with tranquilizers. However, these methods seemed a bit redundant. This person seemed to have lost all ability to think. He sat quietly on the chair, his eyes empty and without luster. Luo Nan took advantage of the fact that there were people next to the clone body to probe, but it was hard for him to get any results. To the side, Cat Eyes felt that Luo Nan was scheming something big, but after suppressing herself for a while, her death-seeking mentality prevailed. She wanted to stir up a bit of trouble, so she poked him in the open. "What are you planning?" "Nothing." Luo Nan responded very honestly. He didn't know what Cat Eyes was thinking. Otherwise, he would have said, "You overestimate me." He really did have an attitude right now, and he was using his brain. But using his brain didn't mean that he had a direction. What he lacked the most right now was a clear train of thought. He wanted to lock onto the thread of Luo Yuan, but this clone body without any mental characteristics had cut off the move he was most proficient in. Patrolling in circles around his own territory clearly wouldn't bring him any inspiration. His current state was, to put it bluntly, very suspiciously like he was putting on airs. What should he do? Before Luo Nan could break through this obstacle, someone in the outside world contacted him. The message came from Peony, who was leaning against the window. "I've sent the latest analysis to the cloud space according to the information you sent. Pay attention to receive it." "Huh? What are you, for? I thought you were in a daze." "Hee, my dear partner. I invited Mr. Ink to follow me for work needs, not to provide you with the convenience of peeping. Please abide by professional ethics, okay?" Luo Nan didn't try to explain. In any case, from the results of his peeping, Peony seemed to be smiling yet not smiling when she said these words. Her attitude was subtle. She might not necessarily be angry. Perhaps she was teasing him more than anything else. He didn't want to waste time on these minor details. He simply pretended not to hear and downloaded the information from the cloud space. He didn't want to be distracted. He just wanted to find some inspiration from the information. After all, his greatest discovery today, the stair-like distribution between ordinary people and ability users, including the capture of a few suspected second-stage infected targets, all stemmed from this. Even if he couldn't give him inspiration, he could at least give him some luck, right? The information Luo Nan downloaded from the cloud space was the latest information Peony had obtained from the Astral Dream edition of Sky Street. It was basic information extracted from the government and a few social organizations and related departments. It mainly reflected the stock composition of the Sky Street Gossip Forum, the specific management personnel, the practices of each moderator, and their basic family situations. In addition, there were also some entertainment news, paparazzi gossip, and so on, involving the more active celebrities in sensitive sectors and the people around them, as well as the relevant situations of some people in society. This information was extremely trivial. Luo Nan roughly scanned the basic data section. It was simply fragmented. It was a tangled mess. However, Peony only used a few simple data sequencing calculations and then readjusted and combined them. For some unknown reason, she was able to scoop out a few extremely important clues. Moreover, the directionality was extremely clear, realizing a directional focus. It was reasonable and convincing. Out of the 5 suspected target superiors, 3 of them are popular idols. These 3 people did not belong to the same company, and their relationship with each other was very ordinary. However, in the past 2 years, they had all carried out many prostitution activities. A relatively high-level supply chain is involved here. Based on the activity trajectories of the prostitutes and the corresponding prostitutes, the suspects of the Jingxian Club. Hey, are you listening? Oh. Luo Nan had really been a bit distracted just now, but Peony's words had exposed him. He was a bit astonished by Luo Nan's keen senses. Peony didn't have any intention of getting angry. Is it? You have important matters to attend to. Well, you could say so. Since she was this considerate, Luo Nan didn't need to hide anything. I obtained some inspiration from you. I'll definitely ask you for guidance regarding data analysis later. Peony rested her chin on one hand as she looked out the window at the ink combing her feathers. She was a bit bored to death. Though we've been partners for a few days, I still have to pay for advanced courses. If you really do have something to attend to, then go do it. Actually, I feel that everyone's mission should have been completed by now that we've investigated to this point. Really? This involves a few special circles. I don't believe that Trigate security needs to go deeper. Let's not talk about this. I will report this information to Trigate security at the same time. As for whether or not we should continue to investigate, that will be up to the client to decide. Luo Nan really didn't put too much thought into this matter. He just said, okay. If there's nothing else, then I'll get off work early. I'll find someone to apologize to in passing. Luo Nan spoke a few polite words. I'm very sorry for delaying your date. But you can probably watch a concert with that person at this hour. This suggestion isn't bad. If it helps in the final outcome, I will thank you. I wish you good luck. It was this kind of blessing again. However, Luo Nan felt that he really did need a bit of luck right now. Soon, Luo Nan's entire mind returned to the problem from before. It was just that there was a bit of inspiration in his mind. It was just as he said. The source of the inspiration came from Peony's data analysis method. This gave him a wonderful association. He subconsciously flipped through the downloaded analytical materials, especially the comparison between the basic data and the final data chart. Luo Nan gradually understood how Peony was able to pull out the clues hidden beneath the trivial fragments through comparison, categorization, and displacement. This method made Luo Nan gasp in admiration, but it also gave him a feeling of intimacy. This was because a month ago, Luo Nan had used a similar method to integrate an enormous amount of disorderly information fragments. He used a completely new perspective to create a new explanation of the old world. Yes, he was talking about the life sketches, the living starry sky. Luo Nan created the life sketches and constructed the living starry sky. Actually, it was all for the sake of sorting out the enormous amount of disorderly information brought about by his mental senses after the explosive growth of his soul strength. This was to reduce the pressure on his body and soul. For this reason, he drew a sketch of his observation target from a holistic, figurative, and fuzzy perspective. He even made a crucial choice. He gave up information on the pure material plane and only paid attention to the domain of life where the mental and material planes interfered. The problem he encountered today was precisely because of that trade-off. A clone life form, especially a clone life form that was rapidly catalyzed, would most likely not have the opportunity to make contact with the outside environment before carrying out a mission. The clone itself didn't possess the conditions to produce consciousness. The so-called consciousness that this ability user clone body had always displayed might very well be the result of remote control, or even a pre-implanted program. In this way, even if the clone body possessed a complete human form and every organ and tissue system was complete and effective, the living starry sky wasn't sensitive to information on the pure material plane. His experience in the underground passageway proved this point. The clues seemed to have been cut off here. But in reality, this was the crucial node for the birth of inspiration. Luo Nan's train of thought slowly opened up after clarifying the nature of the living starry sky. He felt that he needed to change his perspective of observation. Of course, he didn't need to reintegrate and add information on the material plane. Even if he wanted to, he needed to consider the limits of the structure of his body and soul. What he thought was that when faced with an ability user clone body, a special case that couldn't be accommodated by the living starry sky, he could consider it from the path of either non-existent or non-existent. Therefore, he used the external neuron to pull out a notebook and record a few key inspirations. There were 2 points he needed to pay attention to right now. First, the empty shell state. According to the definition of the living starry sky, the so-called ability user clone body wasn't a complete life form. It didn't exist in a state of mutual interference between the material and the mind. It was just an empty shell with a fleshly body. But it was this empty shell that displayed a lively mental state in its negotiations with Moya and the police. It didn't matter if this was a preset program or if someone was controlling it in the dark. The driving force was external. Luo Nan needed to find this clue, and it was very likely that this would involve the domain of the living starry sky. Second, extraordinary power. It wasn't difficult to create a clone person with the current clone technology system. The difficulty lay in how to make it grow quickly and how to make it possess extraordinary power. If the law of only extraordinary power can bestow extraordinary power was correct, then the target itself must possess traces of extraordinary power. Clues could be excavated from the donor cells, the embryo, and even the various stages of growth. He Yuan was certain that this was an ability user clone body, but the target didn't possess traces of the mental plane. Then the direction of his ability must be the fleshly body. This was a more realistic starting point. Luo Nan understood with a single thought. He used the surrounding police personnel and society members as a springboard. He mobilized a bit of soul strength to interfere with the material plane and scan the target. The scanning wasn't done randomly. Luo Nan could be considered a professional after cultivating in the Divine Yu Gym for a period of time. The knowledge he learned from Gym Master Xiao just so happened to be put to use. Luo Nan remembered Gym Master Xiao once said that although there were simple and nimble differences in cultivation, the essence of all fleshly body strength was nothing more than the 4 words, bodily functions. The body was the foundation. Bodily functions were the direction. Fleshly body ability users were those who strengthened the foundation of the body. They mobilized the direction of bodily functions. They made it so that they could maintain the basic requirements of life and even ensure a good quality of life. They still had sufficient strength to destroy the foundation of life with pure fleshly body strength. Therefore, to observe the foundation of others, one had to start with bodily functions. One had to observe the structure of the body and observe the flow of vital energy to determine the root receptacle. Only then could one further differentiate and analyze the root nature and capture the root mechanism. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.